What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4JJK Chapter 101 Advertisement, in the field of premium cursed tool? It seems that I have encountered hard stubble this time. The man with all kinds of long knives all over his body looked around with a vigilant look, compared to the timid old ghosts and crazy ghosts. He is considered the most normal person among them. Becoming a curse teacher is also helpless. He was originally one of the rich and aristocratic, but later because of violation of the rules. He was expelled from the house and became a curse teacher in a fit of anger. There is no turning back arrow when the bow is opened. Killing has become a part of his life. He is not like the ghost boy who likes to eat human flesh and blood, nor is he stealing blood like the old ghost head. He just simply enjoyed the joy of that moment after his life passed away. He came from a family not as ignorant as those two. The moment he fell into this darkness, he knew that he was bound by the powerful cursed tool. And his jujutsu can be immune to most of the first-level cursed tool effects, unless it is a very poor special-level cursed tool that can affect him. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. This person is a strong man with a special cursed tool. He took a deep breath and scanned everything around him. Holding fists with both hands, there is a bit of ancient ritual. I don't know which senior is here, junior, silica sand pill accidentally disturbed. This time I stayed here only because I received a mission. The scenes in the house are all the work of those two people. Silica Sand Maru quickly distinguished the relationship from himself. There was a slight decision in my heart. This person should not be the official jujutsu teacher, otherwise, only the top-level jujutsu can hold the special grade cursed tool, which is infinitely close to the existence of the special grade. Kill yourself in an instant. This level of cursed tool will not be used at all. According to Masakura, there is hardly any problem with the idea of silica pellets, but the only flaw that appears is the cursed tool here is just to experiment with the cursed tool that Ryuichi obtained from Shugazawa that day. Originally, Ryuichi only thought that it was a cursed tool for storing curse power. But while using 6 Immortal Thief Treasury to devour the curse power, it triggered curse hidden in it. Special cursed tool that can cut enchantment. Stop calling, you are the only one left. Zenin's voice suddenly sounded. Click. Then a huge human head was thrown directly on the ground in front of the silica pellets. The horrified expression of the old ghost was fixed on his face forever. The moment when this head appeared, advertisement. Silica Sand Pill's muscles couldn't help tightening, but after hearing the familiar voice, a bitterness instantly appeared on his face. Zenin, are you sent by the Zenin family to protect him? Silica Sand Pill's head swiftly moved, thinking that he had figured out the middle joints. Ryuichi, regarded as a facade, actually hides a terrifying beast behind him, the Jujutsu Master Killer, the chosen tyrant. Zenin is even better. There is you behind him, no wonder. The Zenin's calculations are so deep, a puppet is introduced first, and then you will be hired to protect this guy. With your strength, unless you are a special grade, who can match you with those guys in the highest batch? Sheer looked at the analysis of the silica pellets jokingly. Then a weird smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although you praise Lao Su so much, Lao Su is in a good mood, but my boss doesn't seem to be very happy. Your boss? Silica Sand Maru saw the deep banter in Cher's eyes, and an incredible idea appeared in his mind. Wrong. I was wrong, and it's ridiculously wrong. Your boss is. Puff. Before he could finish his words, Sheer's dagger had penetrated his throat, and his voice rang coldly in his ears. I remember I told you before that you have to take advantage of all the gaps when you kill. You are too bad. Puff. Click. At the last moment, Silica Sand Maru saw the sound and shadow of a long sword all over his body. Isn't that my body? Bang. The blood stained the entire ground, and the dark world began to gradually dissipate, leaving only 2 bald heads on the ground, and the eyes with deep regret. Wow. Oh. Sheer wiped the blood donated on the dagger at will, and then stretched a big lazy waist. It seems to have killed 2 famous guys in the dark world, but it's just a sport that doesn't even count as a warm-up. He tilted his head and looked up at the sky. By the way, boss, are you really not staying alive? These guys are just a bunch of bastards who take money to do things. The real big fish are still hiding behind their backs. Seeking flowers. With Ryuichi's chuckle, the darkness around him began to fade away like a tide. In a flash, the entire senior management once again returned to its former appearance. Only, there were 2 more heads on the ground out of thin air. Ryuichi sits on the boss chair with his legs on the table. Advertisement. The narrow eyes condensed slightly. Even if you ask these guys, there may not be a truth in your mouth. I have a better choice. The dead can't lie. Ryuichi's voice was like a whisper from hell. With a bit of indescribable treacherousness. Even if it is so strong, he can't help but feel uncomfortable. Bang. Talking. Ryuichi gave a sharp kick. A black shadow was kicked out of the distance in an instant. Bang. Click. The tyrannical force penetrated several walls. A dwarf with a short stature and a spirit banner on his back was lying on the ground in embarrassment. The whole body twitches unconsciously, it seemed to be immersed in some terrible fantasy. The eyes are round and round, but there is no trace of brilliance. It's like a broken doll. If someone who knows how to see this person, he will definitely exclaim, because this person is the famous puppet master Jabba in the Dark World. Compared to those three people, Jabba took the lead in attacking Ryuichi, but he received special care from Ryuichi. Enjoyed the treatment that only the special class can experience. Field. Ryuichi directly opened the realm of tempura, and Jabba's consciousness and body were copied and split into countless parts. Then close it again. In the near infinite pain, Jabba's consciousness completely collapsed. But his body did not receive any harm, under Ryuichi's default. Tempura cleverly controls the intensity. Every time Jabba's consciousness is about to adapt to the pain of closing, it will split again, repeating this process continuously. Until his consciousness began to doubt and destroy himself. It will be reproduced again by the power left behind by the tempura. Enduring endless suffering. Although it is alive, it is not as good as death. Jabba is like entering the boundless hell, suffering from this eternal reincarnation. Earth. Chapter 102. Advertisement. Shire looked at Jabba, who was lying in the ruins, completely losing control of his body, and smashed his mouth a few times. I thought to myself, well, you Jabba, it's not good for you to offend anyone. You offend this killer star game. He's not okay to learn from Gojo Satoru. It's good to come and beat you mice at home. Now you dare to take the initiative to send it to your door to find death. Share glanced at Jabba pityingly, although he didn't know what Ryuichi did to this poor guy. But the ability to perceive magical power is almost abnormal. Let Share understand that Jabba is in a situation where life is better than death at this moment. Although I don't understand the specific situation, according to Shire's understanding of Ryuichi, the fate of this guy is probably 100 times more miserable than those three unlucky ones. Ryuichi didn't look at Jabba more, rather, he leaned back in the boss chair a little lazily. Unhurriedly stretched out a hand, on the palm of your hand. A cloud of black air slowly condensed, carrying a bit of creepy power. Constantly hovering in Ryuichi's hands. A mysterious aura radiated from Ryuichi's body. At this moment, Ryuichi is like a demon in hell. His eyes were cold without any emotion. The corners of the mouth are up, with a bit of loneliness. Between the sword eyebrows lightly raised, the dark power in his hand exploded instantly. Shit. That power exploded into black smoke, constantly overflowing. In the mid-air, it slowly condensed into three extremely dark chains. Wow. The three chains are like poisonous snakes, quickly wandering through the void. It seems that there is something in the endless emptiness, which is constantly pulled by the three chains. Click. Finally, chains seem to have finally found his goal. Fast locked. The breath on Ryuichi's body suddenly exploded. Accompanied by the roar of chains, in the stunned expression of Shire. A familiar figure appeared in the eyes of the two. Advertisement. His body was empty and transparent, and his face was numb, like a puppet. The short body, the ugly face, is the old ghost who steals human blood. He was bound by three black chains, like a prisoner. He knelt down weakly in front of Ryuichi. The translucent body exudes a faint chill. Seeing such a weird scene, even the well-informed Share couldn't help being stunned. A guy who was killed by his own hands, a guy whose head fell to the ground. Actually, it appeared completely before his eyes. All this made Shire feel a bit unreal. Dispatch of Detained Spirits can restrain all spirits in the world and forgive all souls in the world. As long as Ryuichi is willing, even if these guys die, their souls will be pulled out of the endless void again. There is no peace in death. The souls who are caught in the spirit will lose their self-awareness and become a puppet who only obeys Ryuichi's orders. Of course, Ryuichi also feels that once Dispatch of Detained Spirits is complete, he should be able to completely pull his soul out of the emptiness. However, in the current situation, this method is sufficient. Who sent you here? Hearing Ryuichi's question, the old ghost has completely lost his self-consciousness. He betrayed his employer without hesitation, Rushuan's family. The Rukawa family? Ryuichi repeated the old ghost's words, vaguely impressed by the family. Then suddenly I remembered the guy who utterly spoken out in the Imperial Front trials. I see. Ryuichi's eyes narrowed slightly. Since he is from that family, it is understandable. After all, there was only one death in the entire Empire test, and that was the poor fellow of Rukawa whose head was cut off by Ryuichi. In the family, it can be said that it consumes a lot of resources to train a jujutsu master who can take the shot. Not all families are big three sorcerer families, and not everyone can play the rules of the game. The Imperial contest, life or death. This rule, which was put forward a long time ago, could not stop the Rukawa family's determination to seek revenge. Among the younger generation of Rukawa, there are only 5 children who have the talent of a jujutsu teacher. Among them, the only one who inherited the family tradition was the only one. It can be said that the current Rukawa family, the younger generation, has lost its inheritance. Rukawa, who was originally a second-rate family, was completely reduced to a third-rate family after this incident. If it weren't for the strength and tyranny of the older generation, even the qualifications of the aristocratic family would not be recognized. The anger of the family was all accumulated on Ryuichi's body. They didn't dare to do anything, so they secretly mobilized a lot of money to hire Curse to assassinate Ryuichi. However, the people of the Rukawa family played a trick, and infinitely weakened Ryuichi's strength, making these arrogant guys even more lawless to think that Ryuichi is a deceitful person. Advertisement. Heavenly family. Ryuichi's voice became a bit deserted, and his fingers kept tapping on the table. There was a crisp sound. Am I being too quiet, so I will be approached by these troubles? He seemed to be asking himself, and he seemed to be asking Shier. She pulled a chair and sat down on it. He pressed his chin on the back of the chair and looked at his boss seriously. The Rukawa family is also a well-known family in Fusang. If you act on them, I'm afraid those old guys will not stand by while drinking the Jujutsu Association. Are you scared? Ryuichi glanced at Shier jokingly, his face illuminated by the faint light outside the window, and a haze appeared on his flawless face. Ha ha ha. I'm afraid this word will never be in my dictionary. Zenin is even better. The chosen tyrant was originally a lawless man. Mo said it was a small Rukawa family, even big 3 sorcerer families. He had performed the assassination mission more than once. I hate trouble, and I hate people who make trouble for me. The best way to deal with trouble is to completely wipe out the party who raised the trouble. If those old guys want to stop me, then be prepared, ready to be cleaned by me. The almost actual killing intent, as if condensed into a blood dance, continued to emerge in midair. It seemed that in an instant, it pulled the world into the hell surrounded by fear and darkness. The two in the room had disappeared without a trace. Click. Demon Lords. Ryuichi put on his trademark smile on his face. Completely dissipated in Zumi. Base, only the mess left. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The soul of the old ghost headed by chains. It seemed as if a blood moon rose quietly. In the end it was like an illusory bubble. As Ryuichi left, the chain shrank quickly. Afterwards, a gust of breeze slowly passed by, from hell. Death smile. The soul of the old ghost was constantly twisted and deformed in it. The pair of moon-white eyes were gradually replaced by scarlet. Chapter 103 Advertisement. The so-called family. It is in history, under the big waves and scouring the sand, the tyrannical family that has been washed away and stood firm. After experiencing the terrifying Millennium Era. The sorcerer family that has been passed down to this day. They are powerful and noble. Almost the entire Jujutsu world is in the palm of the hand. Even the Jujutsu Association and Jujutsu High School are completely incomparable. But the difference in strength between the families is unbelievable. Stronger than big 3 sorcerer families, like an emperor to rule the world. The weak and small are almost about to be removed from the family sequence. To burn the family's centuries of honor, Rukawa family. This family heritage can be traced back to the end of the Warring States period. It is almost similar to the history of big 3 sorcerer families. But, compared to the powerful big 3 sorcerer families, the Rukawa family is much weaker. The family heirloom style has been lost for many years, making this family with a shallow background even more windy. Finally, in this generation, the family tradition of Rukawa family was passed down. Prosperity is in sight. This only hope was completely ruined in Zenin Ryuichi's hands. Zenin Ryuichi. Rukawa's 23 backyard. The spiteful voice continued to sound with a bit of bleakness. The head of the family, Ruchuanya, pours high-quality liquor into his mouth. Cloudy eyes, bloodshot. The curse power of the whole body kept wandering. Fenger, don't worry, Dad will repay your grudges for you. That guy who deceived the world, maybe he used some method to harm you. Fenger, the guy whose head was cut off by Ryuichi, is the young patriarch of the Rukawa family, Kaide Rukawa. This boy is regarded as the hope of the family, has not yet revealed his edge. It was completely broken by a ruthless big hand, Master. The next person walked up to him in a hurry, a respectful salute. Advertisement then looked at the drunk patriarch. Report to report. According to your master, 10 rewards for Zenin Ryuichi have been distributed again. However, the opposition in the family is very strong now. Several elders are very dissatisfied with the behavior of the patriarch. Upon hearing this, Rukawaya's face suddenly went dark. Click. Wow. He overturned the wine table in front of him. Like an angry beast, his eyes were scarlet, his 2 big hands were tightly held together, and his whole body was trembling slightly. When my son was there, 1 or 2 could not wait to stick to me every day. Now that Lao Su's son died in that bullshit prince test, these old guys actually want me to forget. Never mind. My son can't die in vain. Why? Why should everyone accompany Zenin's house to act? Ruchuanya's voice became increasingly hoarse, and her tone was filled with unspeakable resentment. My Rushuan family is also one of the 100. Why should I be wronged by this class? Don't forget. Our family also has that thing. Don't make me anxious, otherwise, no one will think about getting better. Just as he kept roaring, suddenly, the expression on his face was slightly taken aback. A figure cut through the void and went straight to Rushuan's house to kill. Falling like a meteor, With an unrivaled force of terror, it quickly impacted the surrounding space. Even the air was slightly evacuated in an instant. The tyrannical breath makes no secret, the cold eyes were a little joking. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and the evil smile was awe-inspiring. For an instant, the terrifying aura that resembled the subversion of heaven and earth exploded without concealment. The sky, which was originally a clear sky, quickly became gloomy. It seemed that even Da-Ri was a little cowardly in front of the man, hiding quietly behind the clouds. Lu Chuanya looked at the familiar figure that made him unforgettable day and night, gritted his teeth. The curse power of the whole body quickly condenses. Zenin Ryuichi. You are also from a wealthy family. I don't know that the family is visiting. You don't understand this rule? Rushuan Ya's tone was a bit of scolding. Now that Ryuichi appears here, it has already been explained that those few wastes have failed. And also betrayed himself. But there are some things even if the other party already knows it. But as long as it is not on the bright side, everything is still possible. Therefore, Rukawa Ga held his mind for the first time and directly took out the truth and tried to suppress Ryuichi. Advertisement and Ryuichi changed into a black suit, which is rare today. Slim black clothes set off him even more solemnly. He was somewhat frivolous, with his eyes hanging, his tone was still as lazy as he used to be. Rules, this kind of thing, since it is set by people, it will be changed. Some people talk about rules, but secretly, they don't know what ugly things they are doing. Hearing this, Ruchuanga was sure that those guys had really betrayed themselves. But at this moment, if he admits it, it is equivalent to admitting that the spreading family is not abiding by the rules. Ignore the rules of life and death in the imperial competition. These two words, in Ryuichi's opinion, it is useless. But in the family, it really matters more than everything. A family that violated all the rules of the Jujutsu world is destined to be abandoned by the major families. He even completely withdrew from the family's stage. Rukawa understands this truth, and even more clearly, in this situation, there is only one choice: to pretend to be stupid. Wrong. Maybe there is a second way. Ryuichi's body slowly fell to the ground. 400. Randomly twisted his wrist. The breath instantly enveloped the entire Rukawa family's interior. There are no more than 15 Jujutsu teachers in the entire family. Just look at the quality of the magic power. The strongest is just the first level Jujutsu teacher in front of him. Zenin Ryuichi, I don't understand what you are talking about. And the Rukawa family doesn't welcome you. He is a father and the head of the family. Without hurting the foundation of the family, he thinks that he will give up everything and even go to the curse teacher, which he is least good at, to cooperate. But once the critical moment is reached, the glory of the family is above everything else. This theory buried deep in the bloodline completely dominates. If you don't leave, even if you are a descendant of the Zenin family, I will still not show mercy. What does the pig nest at Zenin have to do with me? I'm here this time to come back and forth. After all, your gift is good. The voice did not fall. The shadow under Ryuichi's feet began to surging quickly. Big pale hands kept crawling out of the shadows. With endless horror, Curse vented his power unscrupulously. What are you going to do? Zenin Ryuichi. Our Rukawa family is not a place where you can go wild. Don't say that. I am here. Returning a gift. That's it. Chapter 104. Advertisement click. Countless white cursed spirits appeared behind Ryuichi, like loyal guards, guarding his own king. The curse powers on their bodies are connected to each other, and they are in the same vein, making the originally somewhat shallow curse power extremely large. Cursed spirit manipulation. Lu Chuanya's eyes shrank, and his heart felt tight. This jujutsu has been recorded since ancient times. But I have never heard of this heritage in the Zenin family. The powerful jujutsu that can control everything cursed spirit. Even the most brilliant era in the jujutsu world 1,000 years ago. Cursed spirit exercises can still rank within the top 10 among all jujutsu. Zenin Ryuichi. I'm warning you once. My Rukawa family and your Zenin family are both one of 100. You should know what is behind it. Ru Chuanya's eyes were full of panic, such a large number of cursed spirits. If one started to attack the Rukawa family, then the family's 1,000-year heritage may even be destroyed. This consequence is unacceptable for Ruchuanga. At this moment, a few regrets arose in his heart. When you see Ryuichi himself, you know the boy in front of you. He is a true genius who can definitely rival Gojo Satoru. But what he didn't even expect was, the other party will actually kill the door directly. It is true that among the families, there is always something to do with each other. Among the major families, there are countless assassinations, poisonous killings, and accidents. But everyone has a fig leaf in their hearts. A fig leaf that allows the family to retain their dignity. But, obviously, Zenin Ryuichi is not a poor man who is willing to take care of these fragile guys. In his eyes, it seemed that the Rukawa family had hired the curse teacher to assassinate him. That would be tantamount to announcing the beginning of a war. Change white clothes to black clothes. It was the time of extermination. With a bit of joking in his eyes, he looked at Patriarch Rukawa, who was constantly yelling. It seems to be watching a clown, watching him crash everywhere, watching him spit lotus flowers. Ryuichi's face gradually became impatient. Advertisement. Oh, why do you people dislike listening to others so much? I said it clearly. I have nothing to do with the Zenin family, and I have no interest in the so-called 100 clan. I'm here this time, but I'm here to return a gift. Talking. Ryuichi's fingers suddenly moved closer together, and a black breath continued to emerge on his body. Almost instantly, the group of white torrents behind him resembled puppet stone statues. A more terrifying aura broke out. Click, Titicaca. They uttered meaningless roars, as if they had been ordered by the king, and their pale skin was gleaming with bloodthirsty light. The sharp iron claws carry a terrifying killing intent. Roar. Oh, ah, the torrent rioted instantly. Those countless first-level cursed spirits seemed to drown everything in the world. Enveloping the breath of terror, unscrupulously rushed to Rushuanya. Lu Chuanya looked in front of him, this scene resembling a doomsday, his teeth couldn't help clenching tightly. The man next to him was already scared and fell to the ground. The whole body shivered constantly. Zenin Ryuichi. Too much bullying. Rukawa yelled all his life. The hands were quickly raised, and they continued to alternately flow in front of the chest. The curse power was endless, and the curse power that looked like a wall piled up into a huge stone gate brazenly stood in front of him. Pung. Bang bang bang. The white torrent was actually stopped by the sudden appearance of Shimon. No matter how powerful the curse power bursts out, it can't make a step forward. Seeing this scene, Ryuichi also had a bit of playfulness in his eyes. I didn't expect that a small family who didn't pass the scriptures would actually have such a method. Although the curse of these first-level cursed spirits is not perfect, the strength and speed are the actual first level. But Rukawa was able to stop this torrent with her own power. This is indeed somewhat out of Ryuichi's accident. However, it makes sense. Advertisement. These families can be passed down for thousands of years, and no one has the means to save their lives. But it does. Let Ryuichi become more and more disdainful of these aristocratic families. Ryuichi, who knows the direction of this world, knows well. These powerful families, in the future world, did not contribute to the elimination of cursed spirit. Instead, all of them curled up like a tortoise with their heads down. The dangerous people who talked about everything were thrown into the Jujutsu Academy. Ryuichi once thought that these aristocratic families may exist in name only and could not take care of themselves. But now it seems, these guys who keep talking, righteous and awe-inspiring, I am afraid that the power in their hands is far more than Ryuichi's imagination. Sure enough, they are all chopsticks. Ryuichi's eyes have no emotion at all, just like an eternal blood moon, as if they have seen through the stone gate that suddenly appeared, and looked at the Rukawa patriarch with a somewhat scrutinizing gaze. Titicaca. Rushuanya struggled to exercise the curse with both hands in the air, the muscles of the whole body were tightened, the blood vessels continued to expand, and the veins on his forehead were like disgusting centipedes. Just opening the stone gate had already caused his whole body curse to burn rapidly, plus, on the other side of the stone gate, the shock of the cursed spirit that resembled the horror of the hell Rakshasa. Even more so that all of his whole person's energy was completely concentrated on Shimon. The huge fear almost completely destroyed his mind. Click. Titicaca. A faint crack appeared on the stone gate, as if blowing the horn of attack. He suddenly raised his palm, and an elegant goblet appeared in his hand out of thin air, and the blood-like wine gently rippled in the glass, bringing a few ripples of tongue. The man hurriedly got up from the ground and ran toward the back door, staggering under his feet, and falling down several somersaults in a row. Although a bit of repair power emerged from the stone gate, it was dissipated by a stronger force before it took effect. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. He slowly lay on the rocking chair. Behind Ryuichi, the wisteria rocking chair appeared out of thin air, with a bit of floral fragrance. Ryuichi looked at the back of the man leaving, with a slight chuckle at the corner of his mouth. Click. Let him have no way to repair the slightest bit of Shimon. Immediately afterwards, Diaresis, hurry up and notify the Jujutsu Association. Just saying that the Zenin family wants to tear up the treaty and forcibly snatch the door, Rukawa ga shouted to the man who was sitting on the ground. If it hadn't been for Rukawa Patriarch's majesty to forcibly order him, this poor fellow would have fallen into a faint. Looking at the stone gate that is about to be broken through is like watching an extraordinary drama. The cracks continued to expand, like a spider web, intertwined on the stone gate, and quickly covered the surface of the stone gate. Chapter 105. Advertisement. In the eyes, there seemed to be a few more unclear emotions. I hope you don't be nosy. Otherwise, I really don't mind. Ryuichi's voice was very soft, his eyes narrowed slightly, and his black hair went without wind. On the rocking chair, it looks like a family prince who doesn't charm the world, humming with a melodious tune in his mouth. The solemn Jujutsu Association. At this moment, because of a phone call, I was completely ignited. This is the largest organization that has integrated almost all the resources of Jujutsu teachers and won the support of Fuso State. But at this moment, a piece of news made the city full of wind and rain. There was a dead silence in the entire conference room. 6 dark shadows entangled at one end of the round table. The atmosphere is strange and solemn. These 6 people are all big people who can change the entire jujutsu pattern with their gestures. But at this moment, they chose silence differently. This weird situation lasted for nearly 10 minutes. In the end, the small figure sitting in the first place knocked on the tabletop. Boom boom boom. The crisp sound attracted everyone's attention. What do you think about this? His voice was very old, but it was not weak. On the contrary, he had a breath that he did not have at the age of 400 minutes. On the left-hand side, is a man with a ponytail, his hands pressed on his chin. Shen Sheng said, "We have to set an example. The entire jujutsu community is probably watching our actions. The Treaty of 100 Schools is the Treaty of Theogod, handed down after the war 1,000 years ago. Never break easily. 1. Let's do it. Our people have already surrounded the Rukawa family, and, according to the information over there is only one person who shot, Zenin Ryuichi." The little old man, called number 1, looked at everyone in front of him. Fallen into a bit of deep thought. After a long while, he just spoke. "Zenin Ryuichi defeated Gojo Satoru in the Prince test. Do you really think we can restrain that monster? Under the veil of darkness, nothing is true. I believe that the Zenin family used shaman methods to create momentum for their family. If I approve of number 2, do it. Big 3 sorcerer families have been in the sky for too long. Now, it's time to tell them that the times have changed. It's no longer the era when you can do whatever you want with the name of Zenin's family." Advertisement. A sturdy figure suddenly stood up, his voice loud and deafening. Number 1 nodded softly. The ultimate goal of establishing the Jujutsu Association is not only to better target cursed spirit, but also to restrict these lawless families. Right now, the opportunity is here. Number 5. Have you contacted Zenin's house? What did Zenin Naobi say? Hear the words of number 1. A charming female voice slowly sounded. Zenin Naobi said that the Zenin family didn't want to take action against the Rukawa family, but all the actions of Zenin Ryuichi can be regarded as the will of the Zenin family. If the Jujutsu Association chooses to take action against Zenin Ryuichi, the Zenin family will think that this is what the Jujutsu Association has for Zenin family. Declare war. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere that was finally set off just now dropped to freezing point again. Although they kept saying that they wanted to restrict the power of the family. But compared with the Jujutsu world, which is almost the same in the world and represents one of the entire Jujutsu history, the Zenin family, what kind of horror is hidden behind it? This is the current Jujutsu Association and I don't want to face it directly. All of a sudden, actually let these high-ranking big men fall into a stalemate again. Number 1 sighed softly. Then he looked at the badge of the Jujutsu Association in front of him, as if he had made some determination. He struck hard on the desktop. Boom. Don't forget the purpose of our association. The era of aristocratic families doing whatever they want is long overdue. Besides, if the Rukawa family abandons themselves and forcibly destroys the door because of Zenin Ryuichi, the consequences will be almost unimaginable. Order all members of the Jujutsu Association to attack immediately. Stop Zenin Ryuichi's behavior and protect Rukawa's family. In addition, if the time is right, reclaim the door of the Rukawa family. Number 1's tone became very indifferent and solemn, and with his order, the huge system machine began to operate quickly. The remaining 5 figures also stood up one after another. Say nothing. Everyone exploded with great power, and disappeared into the meeting room in an instant. In the huge meeting room, only the small figure number 1 remained. He stood up tremblingly. Advertisement. Looking at the Rukawa badge on the table with cold eyes. Behind him, the horrible curse power burned crazily, like a demon fighting from hell. Waste. Zenin Naobi took a sip of the wine in the gourd, and the two of them curled their mustaches and slowly fluttered in the wind. In his hand, he held the information that was just delivered to him, with a smile on his mouth. There was a bit of disdain in that smile. Jujutsu Association, do you really think you are ready to fight with my Zenin family? Zenin Naobi threw the jug on the tatami mat next to him, throwing out the information indiscriminately. Looking at the tall man in front of him, he said softly. What do the elders mean? Hearing what Zenin Naobi said, the man bowed slightly and bowed respectfully. Then said solemnly. After receiving this information, several elders only said a word. In Tokyo, in the Jujutsu world, in Fuso, no one can tarnish the dignity of the Zenin family. Any provocation that offends the dignity of the Zenin family can be regarded as a declaration of war. The Zenin family, never afraid of fighting. The great elder asked me to tell you a word. The man's expression became extremely serious, and his tone of voice seemed to be stained with a little sacred color. The 2 words Zenin used to represent war. Hearing this, Zenin Naobi's mouth showed an almost crazy smile. Ha 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 ha. I thought these old guys had forgotten about this thing. So, association, are you really ready? Are you ready to welcome Zenin? The Zenin family, Ryuichi, completely ignored, even with a somewhat despised family. Like a beast, his fangs were exposed. For this powerful family, No matter what Zenin Ryuichi's attitude towards them is, what his posture is. As long as he carries the blood of the Zenin family on him. Then any forces that attack him. It can be regarded as a provocation. A challenge to Zenin's family. Chapter 106. Advertisement. Ha, ha, Lu Xuanya breathed the fresh air greedily. In front of him, the huge stone gate had long been torn apart by the terrifying cursed spirit army. Those monsters who should have lost their wanton and swallowed his blood seemed to be confined in place by some terrifying force. Each body stood upright, just like a soldier who had gone through thousands of tempers. Looking at the creepy scene in front of me, Lu Xuanya's body was involuntarily pierced by cold sweat. Now he has been wrapped in deep regret. He regretted why he hired the cursed teacher to assassinate Ryuichi, and he regretted why he was so weak. No matter in any era, being weak is the original sin. He didn't think he was wrong for wanting revenge on his son. In fact, he was right. But, one thing, he was wrong. That is, he miscalculated the strength gap between Ryuichi, whom he hated so much, and them. Only the strong have the qualifications to discuss dignity and freedom, and only strength is the foundation of rules and iron laws. In front of Ryuichi, this family that has passed on for thousands of years is a well-deserved weak. Ryuichi's body was lying on the wisteria rocking chair, his expression indifferently as if he was in his back garden. Perhaps, from the moment Ryuichi appeared in Rukawa's house. The dominant power of the entire Rukawa family is no longer in their control. Crunch, crunch, the rocking chair swayed quietly in the empty courtyard. After the white cursed spirit army completely tore the jujutsu of Rukawa, it stopped in place once and again. But the terrifying breath irritated his nerves all the time. What do you want to do? Lu Xuanya's tone no longer had the arrogance he had before, and the whole person seemed to lose his spirit. Weakly fell to the ground, looking at Ryuichi's indifferent expression. The corners of the mouth could not help but hang a bit of bitterness. The power of one person can destroy the whole clan. He believed that the young man in front of him could easily do this kind of thing in the story. Even if he has asked his subordinates to go to the Jujutsu Association for help. Advertisement. But, will the guys of the Jujutsu Association really fight against Zenin, who is the big three sorcerer families, for their own family? Even though Zenin Ryuichi has left the Zenin family, but based on his knowledge of the rogue family. Those lunatics, but they don't care about so much. As long as it is a strong person who wears the two words Zenin, they will unscrupulously protect it. What's more, this Zenin Ryuichi who is comparable to the Gojo monster. Thinking of this, a layer of dead dust appeared on Rukawa's face. It seems that I have seen my family, under my own willfulness, completely reduced to a ruin. Ryuichi squinted his eyes, as if sleepy in the rocking chair, and let out a big breath when she heard Rukawa's words. Then rubbed his eyes. The moon-white eyes seemed to be joking and violent. The reason why he didn't directly order the cursed spirit army to smash Lu Xuanya. It's entirely because he wants to know the Jujutsu Association's attitude towards this matter. Troublesome things must be solved together. Otherwise, it keeps popping up 2 times at a time, and that's really annoying. So Ryuichi crushed Rujutsu's jujutsu, but didn't directly kill him. I am a lazy person, so well, it's best to wait until the garbage is cleaned together, what do you think? Ryuichi stared into Rukawa's eyes and showed a sunny smile, but seeing the smile on Rukawa, he really only felt the cold sweat all over his body, and his hairs were standing upright. An icy cold air rushed directly from the sole of the foot to the sky spirit cover. This scene seemed to bring Rukawa Gaga back to the feeling he felt when he was a level 4 jujutsu teacher for the first time facing the special level. The blood coagulated, the eyes were dizzy, and every organ in the body was constantly issuing warnings. Listen, death is knocking at the door. Ryuichi just glanced at Rukawa, who seemed to be dumb, then looked back again. Looking at the sky, covered by clouds, he shook his head gently. The powerful perception ability that 6 Immortal Thief Treasury brought to him made his perception of the fluctuation of curse power almost to a terrifying state. Even Zenin Sheer with heavenly restriction does not necessarily have the current Ryuichi's keen perception of mantra power. He easily felt that in all directions, there were many fluctuations in the power of the spell, converging continuously, and the number was still growing rapidly. Through perception, Ryuichi knew that among this group of jujutsu teachers, there are countless people who are stronger than Rukawa. Unexpectedly, the Jujutsu Association, and an existent force, actually has such hidden strength. Seeking flowers. Also what they said, door is, it's interesting, it's so interesting, the world is much more complicated than I thought. Advertisement. Ryuichi muttered and looked at his palm, the black yongye constantly surging. This world is actually thousands of times more majestic than in the comics. There are so many secrets and obscurities. This is simply fun. For Ryuichi, this world is a big playground. And he is the only tourist in this playground. Speaking of which, that fellow Shire, what are you doing now? ... What are we going to do with this situation now? Are we just watching the collapse of the family? ... 00. What can we do then? That's the Zenin family, as I said a long time ago, don't provoke the lunatics of big 3 sorcerer families. Don't look at it like that now. Is our family destroyed? In the secret room of the Rukawa family, the two old men with white hair argued loudly. As the elders of the Rushuan family, their status is very noble, and they can even surpass the patriarch in some cases. But, now facing Zenin Ryuichi who came to the door. These two guys unexpectedly hid in the secret room at the same time. Although one of the old people was arguing, but his body was honestly unchanged. Damn, it really doesn't work, just open the door and everyone will die together. Anyway, the seal of door stored by our Rushuan family has long been loose. An old man shouted angrily, excited and dancing with his hands. The other old man on the side seemed to have calmed down. He put his hands on the table, looking at his old man seriously. Even if the Rukawa family is completely wiped out, the door will never be opened in the hands of the Rukawa family. This is the honor of our ancestors and our last dignity. As long as the door is not opened in our hands, even if the family is no longer destroyed, then in the Jujutsu world, the Rukawa family's name will not be forgotten, and it will still be one of the 100 families, Tiongui Hengwei. The remarks made the old man a little breathless, but his eyes were still fixed on his partner, Earth. Chapter 107. Advertisement. The remarks made the old man a little breathless, but his eyes were still fixed on his partner. Okay, I know, I'm just angry. It's clear that there is a covenant first. That kid dares to be so presumptuous. I am even more angry that no one in my entire family can fight that yellow-mouthed kid. The door is the honor of our ancestors, I will not open it even if it is not. Do not worry. The atmosphere between the two gradually eased somewhat. At their age, without the magical means in big three sorcerer families, the curse power in the body has long been exhausted. It is basically no different from ordinary old people. If you have to say it, it means two old people with a little stronger body. The huge Rushuan family has long been out of touch. With the death of Rukawa Kaide, almost 410 sutras have pronounced the destruction of this family. 2. The door in your mouth. I think my boss will be very interested. Shi-Er's voice suddenly sounded at the door of the secret room. Bang. The gate was instantly penetrated by a strange force. The chosen tyrant, Zenin Shire, holding a blood-stained dagger in his hand, appeared in front of the two with a bit of ferociousness. The strong smell of blood almost occupied the entire space. At Shi-Er's feet, every step he took left a clearly visible blood footprint. Why are you here? Oh, is it difficult to find you? The younger generations of your family seem to like to betray you. As soon as I got 2 knives, they wanted to tell me the color of your underwear. Shi-Er spread his hands and shrugged his shoulders casually. Said that he hadn't exerted his strength before the other party fell. These unscrupulous descendants. Right, I think they are too unfilial, so, I did a small favor to the 2 elderly people. While talking, he raised 2 fingers and pinched them gently, as if to say that he was just so busy. I will help you kill all those unscrupulous children and grandchildren. What? You? The 2 old men were shocked, their old faces flushed, and they almost vomited a mouthful of blood. What's wrong, anyway, for you, those guys who have curse power but don't have jujutsu or all tools for the reproduction of offspring? Do you really care? Shire looked at everything in front of him jokingly, and in his opinion, some people's lives were indeed inferior to pigs and dogs. Okay, don't care about these useless ones. Can you tell me, what is door? It's better to be more detailed, otherwise, if my boss feels unclear, then you won't have a chance to be clear. Advertisement. Ryuichi looked at the sky boringly, was his few patience, was being consumed rapidly. The black air at the fingertips also kept surging. Under such circumstances, Ryuichi was a little bit sleepy. In fact, the previous Ryuichi was not really so sleepy. Before mastering 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, although he was lazy, at least there was a limit. However, since mastering 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, the huge power of the body's self-transformation will make him fall into a deep sleep, to better enhance the body's strength. This made Ryuichi, who was already lazy, even more slack. By now, even though the 6 Immortal Thief Treasury is complete, it can almost instantly digest the power of the spell. But this habit of lethargy was indeed retained by Ryuichi for some reason. Sudden, an extremely bright light suddenly appeared in the sky, which actually changed the style of the day. With incomparable strength, he rushed towards the ground. Watching the sudden shock of terror, the sleepiness in Ryuichi's eyes quickly converged. His left hand patted the rocking chair unhurriedly. The rocking chair disappeared out of thin air again. Rumble, hoo-hoo. The impact erupted with a strong whistle, like a punishment from heaven. Null. Bang. 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 The impact hasn't completely fallen yet, but the surrounding walls and ground are beginning to shatter continuously under the aftermath of that terrifying power. Facing the impact of such a tyrannical attack, Ryuichi raised a palm unhurriedly. A faint blackness appeared in his hand. Shocking. Countless cursive powers like silk threads surging quickly from the pitch black. Like a long black snake, it continuously falls into that shock from all directions. Rumble. Bang. That power instantly accelerated countless times, and in the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of Ryuichi. Advertisement. Next moment. Rumble. Null. The mighty force, like a punishment from heaven, completely swallowed Ryuichi. Endless terrifying power rushed towards the ground. Bang. Click. The earth uttered an overwhelmed mournful cry. A huge pothole appeared in Lu Xuanya's eyes. Seeing everything in front of me seems to be caused by the fall of a meteor. He hardly wanted to believe his eyes. So powerful, so destructive. Even the super cursed spirit would be completely destroyed by this blow. It's terrible. Who is it? Who is it? Rukawa glanced around quickly. But a tall figure behind him completely enveloped him. A deep voice rang slowly in his ears. As thick as the earth. Jujutsu Association, Acting President Number 3, accepting your Rukawa family's request for help. The bald man walked to Rushwanya's side, the muscles all over his body were intertwined, like a walking human monster. Looking at these white cursed spirits with disdain. Haha, it really is a poor guy made by Zenin's household means. I really think I can do whatever I want with my strength. It's a pity, it's just a clown who was stunned by power. Rukawa was completely overwhelmed by the strength of the man in front of him at this moment. Although I don't know what jujutsu the other party has. But this one trick can actually cause such damage. Simply appalling. Number 3 looked at Rushwanya, who was shocked by her own strength, with a bit of pride on her face, just about to say something. Suddenly, his brow frowned, and a sense of crisis came from his intuition, and instantly surged into his heart. That was his fighting instinct that was born after thousands of hard work. You can't go wrong. The muscles of his body tighten quickly, and his whole person is like an armored car, ready to crush everything that is about to appear at any time. Hey, it's very impolite to be big and dirty other people's clothes. Has anyone taught you? Chapter 108. Advertisement. The boy's cold voice suddenly sounded in Number 3's ear. His eyes shrank sharply. Useless force under your feet. Pung. A huge pit appeared on the ground instantly. Number 3's body quickly backed away. In the blink of an eye. Has already withdrawn tens of meters away. With a huge figure, the ground shook slightly. Seeing Ryuichi, who suddenly appeared in front of her, her eyes were surprised, but she was quickly covered by that expression of contempt. A bit capable, Zenin Ryuichi, you have such a speed at your age, but unfortunately, in my opinion, you are still far behind. Talking. The body of Number 3 is like a giant rhino. He rushed to Ryuichi frantically, his huge body rushing at an extremely inconsistent speed. The force of terror even continuously squeezed the surrounding air into a ball. With amazing violence. Rumble. Thunder. Almost instantaneously. The terrifying body of Number 3 has appeared in front of Ryuichi. Ryuichi's expression is a bit playful. He did not expect that someone would fight him close. Raise both hands quickly. Bang. Two big hands directly block in front of him. Awesomely grab the arm of the terrifying body of Number 3. Bang. Click. The power of the two madly bombarded together. There was a groan from the ground. It seemed that they could not bear the power of these two humanoid monsters. In the surrounding space, countless black thunder flashes faintly appeared due to the collision of the power of the two. Number 3's tiger eyes widened, and he couldn't believe that this little bit in front of him could actually take his own blow. To know. Since adulthood, apart from the monster Zenin share, no one can survive their own attacks. But what he didn't know was, standing in front of him, the man who wrestled with him defeated Share and turned him into a horrible existence of employees. Bang. The remaining power is not exhausted, the new force is reborn. The breath between the two became even more violent. Number 3's whole body muscles violently, and the hideous veins are beating constantly on his arm. On his forehead, blood vessels bulged, his face flushed, like a red-faced Ruksha. And he was opposite. Advertisement. Ryuichi, who is a little shorter than him, has a painless appearance. There was a smile as always on his handsome face. It's like playing a little game between friends with Number 3. But, only the Number 3 who is in this power struggle knows how terrifying this smiling young man is. No matter how powerful he burst out. Also that the mud cow could enter the sea and was taken by Ryuichi. He even cast Ryuichi's eyes and saw a trace of cat and mouse banter. Can't fight like this. Bang. On the third, the left hand suddenly withdrew force, and stepped instantly under his feet. The figure twisted back at a very strange angle. But Ryuichi naturally couldn't let him do so. The figure was tight in an instant, and his hands were suddenly raised. The speed was so fast that Number 3 could not capture Ryuichi's movements. Bang. Bang. Pung. 3 muffled sounds sounded in vain. Number 3. On his head, abdomen, and breastbone, blood splattered like a bullet pierced through it. But it also got him out of Ryuichi's claws, and his body retreated violently. The physical strength is good, but compared to Share, it's a bit worse. Ryuichi looked at the wound, the guy who was healing slowly, guessing that this was probably the guy's jujutsu. Unexpectedly, I actually looked away, your strength is such a degree. But it's not enough. Oh, really, but you are as weak as I guessed. Ryuichi's tone didn't fluctuate in the slightest, as if he was talking about a common thing. But after hearing this, number three's eyes shrank tightly. The teeth clasped tightly, and the blue veins on his forehead violently. It's like a violent killing machine. A raging murderous aura radiated from him. What did you say? Every word he said seemed to be squeezed out of his teeth. Ryuichi was still indifferent and frivolous. He clicked his ears boredly, and then said quietly. Although it is so weak, the ears are not good. Before Ryuichi's words fell, suddenly his eyes condensed, and a strange feeling appeared in his heart. The surrounding space actually began to twist slightly. Several fences appeared, shrouded all around. A huge ring. It appeared in vain in the backyard of Rukawa's family. Advertisement. Rukawa and Ryuichi's curse leaders were all gone. Only 2 people on the ring are left. A black-clothed white eye. A bald beast. The third hand still maintains a strange knot printing movement. There was a slight grin on his face. Staring hard at Ryuichi. My jujutsu, the propaganda of the ring, under my jujutsu, we will enter the ring. Follow the rules of the ring, and only I will specify the rules. Number 3 looked at Ryuichi proudly, and did not hesitate to make his jujutsu public. Blast hand card. This is a commonly used method among jujutsu teachers. By exploding his hand, Lai puts pressure on the opponent. At the same time, jujutsu division has the same rule of choice that is gains and losses. There are gains and losses. Losing the right to conceal jujutsu's ability, the second gained jujutsu's own power increase. Ryuichi looked at the surrounding scenes and was amazed. The 400 power of number 3 can actually create a place similar to a realm. This kind of jujutsu, which involves rules, is a very powerful existence without exception. You make the rules. Yes. At this time, the number 3 is not as irritable as before. Looking at Ryuichi's eyes, it seemed to look at another defeated man. He didn't rush to do it. Instead, he showed a tyrannical smile. The rules of this ring are set by me. Appeared out of thin air, slowly falling to number 3's fist. The tyrannical force continues to condense. Pung. In such a strange scene of the interview, Ryuichi actually smiled a little. It was as if he had seen his prey. Then what? The voice fell. A strand of long black hair. Ryuichi actually felt the power nourished by 6 immortal thief treasury in his body, disappearing crazily. The third, like a mad evil Ryuichi, opened his teeth and danced his claws to kill Ryuichi whose power was sealed by him. It seems to have seen some novel toys. Then you go to die. But a strange scene suddenly appeared. The smell of blood instantly flooded the ring. Interesting, so interesting. For example, I said that for people with strong curse power, in this arena, their body will be weakened in proportion to the strength of the curse. Chapter 109. Advertisement. The moment that strange black appeared in number 3's eyes. An extreme sense of crisis swept his mind instantly. Will die. These 2 characters appeared in number 3's heart like a nightmare. Bang. The strength of the foot is turned, and the position is shifted between. The figure retreats step by step. With a certain alertness on his face, the tiger's eyes opened wide, and he looked closely at the figure that suddenly appeared on the ring behind Ryuichi. His eyes shrank slightly. My jujutsu's rules are broken. Only allow one-on-one arena, there shouldn't be any other existence. But right now, the strange figures in white clothes and black hair, all bloody, slowly drifted by Ryuichi's side. Ryuichi felt a rare sense of weakness in his body, and the power of 6 immortal thief treasury would really dissipate because of the opponent's jujutsu. This is indeed beyond Ryuichi's calculations. For a long time, Ryuichi, who has mastered 8 mysterious arts, is a well-deserved outlier in this world. Although his power system is still in the jujutsu world, he exercises everything on the basis of curse power. But it is beyond jujutsu, free and easy. Most jujutsu can hardly affect Ryuichi, but today, the guy in front of him can actually affect his 6 immortal thief treasury. Sure enough, it's not that simple. This world is far from the shallowness that Ryuichi once saw in the comics, the beast hidden in the dark, still peeping everything deeply. Just like the big bald man in front of him, his strength far exceeds the first level. The ordinary super cursed spirit has almost no resistance under his jujutsu. Bring the opponent into the ring. Facing someone with strong curse power will weaken the curse power. Facing someone with a strong body weakens the body. It can be called a bug-like existence. Although it is not as terrifying as the no lower limit technique, it is also a rare and powerful technique. This kind of existence actually came back and did not participate in any extermination operations, but emerged during the human civil war. The deep meaning hidden in this makes Ryuichi feel a little sick. Impossible. Once my jujutsu is turned on, it is equivalent to pulling out a miniature field. Absolutely nothing can break into the ring. Unless. The tone of the 3 trumpeted sharply. Under his jujutsu restrictions, nothing will ever come before the end of the ring. Break into your own jujutsu. Unless the other party. Controlling a powerful cursed spirit whose strength exceeds the density of jujutsu. Premium. And it must be the kind of powerful super class with a roster to do it. Advertisement. Wow, wow. The long black hair is like countless long snakes, dancing constantly in the middle of the ring. The terrifying aura caused the entire ring space to be slightly distorted. Hee hee, big guy, it seems that you are not too stupid. Your jujutsu can pull a space that belongs to you alone. But, as long as you drive the field in an instant, you can forcibly tear your jujutsu. It's unfortunate to get into it. The cursed spirit who masters the field, I happen to have one. Ryuichi twisted his wrist a few times at random. A gleam of light flashed across the moon-white eyes. Look at the number 3 in front of you. The fingers lifted slowly. A black air continued to condense at his fingertips. ZZZ. The powerful curse power made the space another crazy twist. It's only a special grade. Do you think I have a special grade in the field? I haven't killed it. Although number 3 was crazily reminiscing about the real identity of the cursed spirit that suddenly appeared in front of him, his face remained as usual, still the previous arrogant appearance. That's it, but I don't have any plans to let the Tempest compete with you. The black aura at Ryuichi's fingertips seemed to be like a thunder at the moment, blooming with a frightening aura. In front of him, the strange figure of the tempura was constantly swaying. It seems to dissipate at any time. But Ryuichi's words caused a huge wave in number 3's heart. Temple. I remember it. Super specific hypothetical cursed spirit, Tempo. The ancient cursed spirit that existed 2000 years ago, a guy of this level, will actually be controlled by Zenin Ryuichi. Number 3 suddenly remembered the statistical illustration book about the powerful cursed spirit that he had seen from ancient times to the present. For the cursed spirit thousands of years ago, records are very scarce. However, none of the existences that can be recorded are the terrifying demons that have caused great damage to this world. It is the lingering haze in human history. Tempura. From accumulating grievances, to destroy grievances. In the second year of the Warring States period, one country was destroyed, and Luoyi was overwhelmed by the country. The Black Wolf swept across the city. It is the first and only devil that completely wiped out the entire country in the entire historical record without leaving the dog or the chicken. Ryuichi glanced at it and suddenly became a little flustered with number 3, and the corners of his mouth were slightly pursed. It looks like you recognized her, but don't be nervous. The ring will look like a ring. Your opponent is me. Click. Q. Advertisement. Jung. Buzzing. Dispatch of Detained Spirits. The thunder at Ryuichi's fingertips exploded in an instant. Under the thunder, the tempura instantly turned into a phantom and rushed into Ryuichi's body. Rumble. The horror-like hell quickly surged over Ryuichi's body. Click. With the power of the tempura, it continued to bless Ryuichi's body. He felt it, and a crisp sound came from his body. It seemed that something was crushed by the surge of Ryuichi's power. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury recovered instantly. Formidable power continuously condenses from his Baihui acupoint, and in an instant, it covers the whole body. Seeing such a weird scene in front of me, number 3 swallowed instinctively and spit. Can cursed spirit manipulation be able to achieve this level? As a senior member of the Jujutsu Association, he almost knows most of the powerful jujutsu. Especially for jujutsu of cursed spirit operation, which is destroy the country level, I keep it in my heart. Of it. But I have never heard of it. Cursed spirit exercises can integrate the power of cursed spirit into the body. Ryuichi stretched his body. Feel the powerful force lost and regained in the body. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Following his movements, his body made a sound like popping beans. Crackling, crackling. He held out a finger. Bang. Next moment, the terrifying force like violent Ryuichi exploded directly in the belly of number 3. His figure brazenly appeared in front of number 3. Pung. Ryuichi disappeared instantly. It's like a ghost again, disappearing into the darkness and disappearing without a trace. It is like a dragon, stretching its claws. Slap. The first round has just begun. Puff. When. Facing number 3 provocatively, he made a forward hook gesture. With a very fast speed, punch out. Base. Chapter 110. Advertisement. This terrifying punch directly clasped number 3's abdomen. The tyrannical force burst out instantly. Hit the body of number 3 directly to the bend. What? A mouthful of blood spurted out immediately. The body is like a well-cooked prawn, arched into a ball. Click. Bang. But it is even more frightening. With Ryuichi's blow, the old power has not retreated, and the new power has regenerated. Like a road roller, it ran rampant on number 3 again. Bang. The ground of the ring seemed to be unable to bear the terrifying power like the might of heaven. A crack was suddenly cracked. Subsequently, centered on the faint crack. A large number of cracks grew quickly. The ring was instantly covered with coils of wire. With one punch, the world is subverted. The power of terror erupted again like a flood, and number 3 was like a lone boat in the huge waves, weak and helpless under that power, constantly struggling. His most proud body, under that power, actually began to appear a little disintegrated. Damn. The rules change, the positives and negatives go backwards. With a piercing howl on the third. Above the entire arena, 400 appeared a bit mysterious and mysterious aura. Ryuichi felt the changes around him, and the corners of his mouth were a little bit playful. It's like a child who saw a new toy. The power in the hand stagnated slightly. Just in the middle of this line, number 3's eyes burst out in vain. Pung! The strange power under his feet rose again, and his body instantly shifted. He staggered and escaped Ryuichi's attack range. The rules are reversed, and the physical power is reversed. Jujutsu power. As he spoke, the hideous muscles of number 3's body quickly faded away, and Zi Shui, replaced by the powerful curse power of a river, hovered around him quickly. Just now, it was like a beast's number 3, at the moment it looked like an elegant bachelor, with a slim body. Gentle. His abdomen was left with a deep fist mark because of Ryuichi's punch. The scary wound was almost about to penetrate his body completely. Advertisement. Interesting. Ryuichi looked at the face-lifted number 3 in front of him. The eyes condensed slightly, with a cat and mouse play. The whole body exudes a dangerous atmosphere. Huh. The number 3 exhaled deeply. He knew that now was the most dangerous battle in his life. The boy who was as harmless as the boy next door would never let him go. From my birth to now, you are the first opponent who made me feel life-threatening. So, next, I will defeat you by all means. In an instant, number 3 has adjusted his mentality. Now he is no longer the superior number 3 acting president. In front of Ryuichi, he chose to attack as a challenger. Just like when he was a teenager, he kept hitting the top group. The tyrannical curse power continued to boil over him like a river. The surrounding space has become extremely fragile because of this powerful curse. Click. The space uttered an overwhelmed scream. The atmosphere on the ring became extremely solemn. Ryuichi put away the smile on his face rare, and brought a little solemnity. He noticed that with the rapid increase in the power of number 3, another thing occurred. The rules of the ring are changing. It seems that between the heaven and the earth, some irresistible force is constantly descending in this ring. This is independent of the world outside of reality, re-establishing new rules. The winner has everything. The loser loses everything. An invisible scale seemed to appear beside the two of them. Domain expansion. The winner is king. Rumble. The hands of number 3 quickly formed seals, and the surrounding ring continued to expand. An infinite space appeared around the two of them. Come on. Let's start the fun part. Although the body of number 3 became extremely weak. But the terrifying curse power is still constantly improving. Unexpectedly, even the super cursed spirit's curse power is not as strong as this guy's. With such a strong curse power, in this world, Ryuichi has never encountered it again except for the Yakiorochi. But right now, this man's curse power is indeed 10 times stronger than that of the Temptress. In my field, our strength will be measured on the scales, to achieve a complete balance, so that all of us reach the same magnitude. Advertisement. It's like a boxer, qualitatively weighing. However, I have the only right above the ring, cheating. I can convert all the power beyond balance into my own magic power. Number 3 slowly raised his hands as if he was enjoying the terrifying power in his body. What a fascinating power. There was a sickly red on his face, and he waved his hands violently. Next moment 1. The terrifying curse power turned into a half-moon slash, piercing the void, with the killing intent to destroy everything. Go straight to Ryuichi to kill. Click. Wherever the slash passed, the void groaned 1. It's hard to imagine that it can be done with just one striker knife. But, even if this is a terrible attack that can cut through the sky, it doesn't seem to make Ryuichi feel the slightest emotion. He stretched out a palm at random. The black breath spread in his hands. Bang. He actually raised a palm for a living, blocking the front of that terrifying cut. Idiot. There was a glimmer of joy on number 3's face. The seemingly random blow was actually a full blow that condensed all the power in his body. Ryuichi's left hand relentlessly grabbed the slash with the terrifying killing power. Ryuichi looked at number 3, who was stunned. In addition, he has absolutely no way to defeat the opponent. That is one shot, one hit kills. The smile on his face just appeared, but in the next scene, his smile completely froze on his face. Click. With a blow of all his strength, he was firmly grasped by Ryuichi. So his ability has long condensed the strength together. The strongest blow. With a weird bang, the force that carried the full blow of number 3 was instantly shattered. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Domain this thing, I seem to do too. His voice fell in the ears of number 3, like a babble from a hell ghost. He knew that facing Ryuichi's horror and gaining strength, he had only one way to go. The corners of the mouth chuckled. In vain, his hands exerted force again. Slowly raised 2 fingers. The moment Ryuichi relaxes his vigilance, he pretends to be a casual slash, hiding his strongest blow. Because he saw it. Chapter 111. Advertisement. The realm is all the power that Jujutsu masters dream of. It also represents the ultimate representation of all the power of Jujutsu. He isolates the gap between genius and mortal. It is also an impenetrable minefield for the weak. Ryuichi's eyes have a look that has never appeared before. Countless black eternal nights appeared all over the body. The tyrannical force twisted and deformed in midair. A black whirlpool slowly emerged behind him. A round of scarlet blood moon suddenly appeared in the sky above this ring. Three's whole body trembled slightly. Because, at the moment that blood moon appeared, his domain has been hacked. The bloody moon hangs high, and the black fog is all over the sky. The treacherous breath continues to spread around. Ryuichi's body slowly floated into the air, like the master of this bloody moon. His breath became even more empty. The whole person exudes a kind of indescribable dignity. As if under him, sentient beings bow their heads. Kaka kaka. Buzzing. Jung. Moment. Around the endless ring, above the invisible void, the endless night seems to have broken through this eternal world. In the center of the ring, the scale that weighs everything. Covered by countless black mist. Woo, ooh, countless black translucent spirit bodies constantly appeared in this space, groaning meaninglessly in their mouths. The rules have been changed. At this moment, the power of number 3's whole body was constantly looking back, and the terrifying curse power began to dissipate crazily, replaced by his tank-like body. A thought suddenly came up in number 3's mind. My domain is broken. The only realm that can defeat the realm. The only thing that can break through the realm is the realm. Only the intersection of two completely different and incompatible worlds will shatter the existing realm. The strong field can tear the weak field. But, advertisement. The current scene, indeed, completely exceeded number 3's expectations. Because, as it was said, one's own domain was torn apart by a more powerful one, and even worse, one's own domain was constantly being eaten away by Ryuichi's domain. His winner is king rule still continues, but it is covered by rules with stronger priorities. Domain expansion, the dead world of Yindu. Rumble. The bloody moon emitted a dazzling blood light, and under this blood light, the ring seemed to be stained with a layer of haze. You are lucky. Congratulations, you have become the first guest of the Yindu dead realm. Ryuichi's voice is not loud, but it seems that everything in this world is singing his will. Is the sound across countless time and space, directly emerging in number 3's mind. At this moment, number 3's scalp seemed to explode. Because he knows. What kind of monster is he facing? In his realm, he is a rule maker and a cheater, but a guy as powerful as Ryuichi can still beat him in his realm, and even rob him of everything. But at this moment, Ryuichi's field is different. It is completely rule loopholes. This is the so-called irregularity. There is no so-called blessing state in this. Jujutsu must be moderately effective. But it has a more terrifying effect. That is, Ryuichi, who created this field because of complete irregularity, will become the only rule in this field. He can even completely reverse common sense in this world. Ryuichi closed his eyes and seemed to enjoy the terrifying power of your body at this moment. He vaguely. There is an illusion, as if he is the only god in this world, omnipotent, and speaks the law freely. This is the true ability of Dispatch of Detained Spirits. In complete fields, there are such powers. The realm unfolding at this moment is not the effect produced by Ryuichi after serving the spirit tempura. It was because his Dispatch of Detained Spirits reached 50% of the time, unlocked incomplete domains. According to Ryuichi's estimation, only when the progress of Dispatch of Detained Spirits reaches 100% can the Yindu dead realm be perfected. In this field, Ryuichi is the only master. It is the rule maker and the controller of the sequence. The Dispatch of Detained Spirits' arrogant conquering power is expanded infinitely, and an unregulated domain is created that is completely obeyed by the host. Everything here comes from Ryuichi's state of mind. That round of blood hanging in the sky is the embodiment of Ryuichi's mood at this moment. Hanging upside down on the sky forever, endless fear. Who are you? Quote. I'm just an ordinary owner of the house of everything. Seeking flowers. But you are testing my bottom line time and time again. You did what Shanzawa did. But it doesn't matter now. Advertisement. Enjoy this extraordinary performance. Shocking. Countless black souls are constantly pouring out from all directions, imprisoning number 3's body in an instant. Number 3 eyebrows were tightened, and the whole body's strength was really useless. This extremely arrogant and powerful man was like a pig dog imprisoned in a cage. Weakly fell onto the ring. He opened his mouth vigorously, and there was indeed no sound. The right to make a sound has been wiped out by Ryuichi. Click. Countless sharp blades hung upside down all around. Jung. ... 00. Buzzing. His body was instantly pierced by countless steel knives, and the blood was about to gush out, but it quickly seemed to have been blessed by some kind of power, all hanging upside down into his body. The endless steel knife cut continuously on his body. His skin, which was once golden and stone-like, is now as unbearable as a rag doll. Ah, damn. Damn B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************$ $ $ $ $Z It was because his dispatch seemed to be heard by Ryuichi. Ryuichi picked up a finger at random. Move slowly in the void. A huge pan of oil appeared under number 3's body. Click. The endless space all around is instantaneous. Some were ulcerated all over, and some left only bones. Ah, help me, next moment. Kaka kaka. Under such a terrifying scene, The stench constantly irritated number three's nose, but his body really couldn't even move at all. Don't. Kill me. Kill me. No, I don't want it anymore. I don't dare to be there anymore. The third acting president of the Jujutsu Association broke down completely. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. He seemed to have become the coward he once hated the most, praying for death madly in his heart. Earth. ZZZ. Ripples in the space. In that pan, there seemed to be countless evil spirits crying for mercy, and they uttered heartbreaking screams. Chapter 112. Advertisement. ZZZ. ZZZ. In the oil pan, the hot oil was constantly tumbling. The scorching temperature caused the surrounding space to become slightly distorted. Number three's whole body began to tremble involuntarily because of fear. Although the world's body is completely restrained by the power of terror, it can't move. But his five senses seemed to be magnified countless times, and even the slightest sound would be countless times louder in his mind. That terrible cry, falling in the ears of number three, is tantamount to bursts of thunder. ZZZ. Bubbles continue to rise in the oil pan, like an ordinary people's cauldron, heating the oil and cooking the meat. Only, the one who is about to fall into the pan is the poor fellow who can't be beaten. No, don't. No matter how much he yelled in his heart, begging for mercy. His body still resembled a bean bag, sliding slowly towards the hot oil. The speed at which he slipped was slow to read. It can even be described as tortoise speed. But it is so, that fear is getting stronger and stronger. This pain, which is no different from Ling Kai, was forced to repeat it countless times in his mind. I do not know how long it has been. With the sound of Zilla. Number three's body was completely submerged in the oil pan. He finally got the right to make a sound, but the next moment, he was completely overwhelmed by the piercing pain. The number three can even vaguely smell the scent of meat. His skin burst frantically, revealing the pink tender flesh under the skin. Following this, responsibility is an even stronger heat wave. ZZZ. In this pan, he should have died completely, and even became a deep bone. But, it seems that there is a mysterious power that does not allow death, repairing his body over and over again. In the constant destruction and regeneration, number three seems to have entered a cycle of eternal nightmare. Life after life, endless sinking. Click. Advertisement. Ryuichi looked indifferently at the number three, who fell to the ground and twitched constantly, and the corners of his mouth were slightly tilted, revealing the smile of the boy next door again. All around, the realm of Victor as king has not disappeared. The scale that measures everything is quietly placed in the center of the ring. There is no boundless ear darkness, no pan of scorching hell, and no countless souls. Everything is like a dream. Only the number three on the ground is constantly twisting his body. He actually got burns over and over again, and then he replied again. Ryuichi's fingers were brought together, and the black air in his hands kept wafting. In the field of number three, he became the man who finally stood still. The scales began to tilt gradually. Finally, the surrounding ring is constantly twisting. From the body of number three, countless tyrannical curses leaned out and rushed towards Ryuichi's body frantically. The winner is king, and the loser retreats. The body of number three is losing weight rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. The huge curse power he obtained without knowing how many people plundered all fell into Ryuichi's body, and as the six immortal thief Treasury turned away with all his strength, the huge curse power quickly nourished Ryuichi. The moment when the balance finally fell completely on Ryuichi's side. Everything around me began to dissipate. The field is broken. Fool. Ryuichi's tone was somewhat mocking. Everything is said to be an incomplete field. In fact, the incomplete realm of Yindu Dead Realm cannot be fully expanded, and everything that appears in front of No 3 is the earliest foreshadowing left by Ryuichi. As early as when Ryuichi was drawn into the field by number 3, when he wrestled for the first time. Ryuichi has already set the domain expansion in 1 and 2 seconds. Planted the fantasy of the dead world of Yindu into the subconscious of number 3. So, in the ensuing battle, when Ryuichi expanded his domain open posture, the haze left at that time broke out completely. A strong body does not necessarily have a strong will. The real powerhouse is absolute, without any dead ends. However, the number 3 obviously cannot do this. Therefore, everything he sees in the future will be the most feared existence in his subconscious. What he said is indeed correct, the Yindu Dead Realm is an unregulated realm, but he has fallen a little alone. Irregularity is equivalent to closing fraud. Advertisement. That is a more advanced technique far beyond cheating. It's a pity, Divine Armament 100 Refinements and 6 Immortal Thief Treasury have no domains. Feeling the terrifying power that is infinitely close to the superclass Jujutsu division by just unfolding the domain of 1/10 of a second. Even with Ryuichi's disposition, he couldn't help but feel a little bit of joy. However, Divine Armament 100 Refinements and 6 Immortal Thief Treasury do not have a domain generation, which makes Ryuichi have a little thought. But in a vague way, an incredible idea was born in his mind. Will the stunts unlocked in the future breed a brand new field? Click. With the complete collapse of the field, the surrounding scenes reappeared before Ryuichi's eyes. In the backyard of Rukawa's family, the cursed spirit army still stood neatly in place. And the body that shed the teeth was pressed on the ground by a bohemian figure. As if to treat this family head as a chair, Shire looked at Ryuichi, who reappeared from the field, and threw the half-smoked cigarette in his hand. Taking a casual glance, the number 3 on the ground, which was already shriveled like a skeleton, didn't care too much. Oh, long time no see, boss. Where did you go? Don't know if it's still working hours, be careful that I deduct your salary. Ryuichi, who came out of the field, became so lazy again. It seems a bit tired. She even shrugged his shoulders. I'm afraid that my monthly salary will not even be able to afford a good can of beer. He naturally didn't count on it. It just silently put a dragon peeling hat on Ryuichi in my heart. Please don't hurt my poor salary. Boss, we had a big fire this time. Hearing Shear's words, Ryuichi became a little bit interested. It is very interesting to think that it can be called a fire by Zenin Share. What's the matter? Let's hear it. The two said to themselves, from the beginning to the end. No one looked at Rukawa, who was half kneeling on the ground, and she was sitting under her A. And Rushwanya was completely shocked by the scene before him. The terrifying man, who was like a god and demon, after opening his own domain, was thrown on the ground like a lost dead dog. The curse power of the whole body was completely depleted, and even the body became dilapidated. It's hard to imagine such a miserable guy, who actually blasted the courtyard out of a huge pit with one blow 10 minutes ago. Chapter 113. Advertisement. Rushwan's family, it's over. Once this thought appeared, it seemed to take root in his mind continuously. Until now, he can't believe that Rukawa's powerful family for thousands of years, as one of the 100 Fuso families, protecting the most secret Rukawa family in the Jujutsu world, was actually a 16-year-old boy. Alive and annihilated. The life or death of the two elders is uncertain. The younger generation was killed by Zenin Shire, and the only Kaide Rukawa who mastered the family tradition was also eliminated by Ryuichi long ago. If I didn't find the cursed teacher, if I didn't want revenge, if I followed the rules of the imperial examination. But there has never been a if. Making mistakes is a privilege given to the strong from heaven. The weak will always only have one chance. Zenin Ryuichi can make mistakes several times, and he and Gojo Satoru can willfully and thoroughly break the rules of the royal contest. You can ignore the recruitment of major families in Jujutsu Academy and Jujutsu Association. Even as long as he nods, even his House of Everything 23 can instantly become a brand new force officially recognized by the Jujutsu community. But he can't. Even when he rose to revenge against Ryuichi, his family was destined to be completely destroyed under this decision. This world is unfair. He has also ignored and trampled on the dignity of those wild cats, and he has also overlooked the ordinary Jujutsu masters who are constantly struggling at the bottom. Today, he didn't even have the qualifications to stand in front of absolute power. He wanted to initiate the final impact for the honor of the family, but the shadow of death has already defeated his few courage. The Walking Dead is nothing more than the case. Shire looked at Ryuichi, who was a bit of a character, and waved his hand mysteriously, as if to tell some earth-shattering secret. And Ryuichi, who has always been lazy, is rarely in the mood to make a fool of herself. Perhaps this is Ryuichi's unpredictable character. Obviously just killed a Jujutsu master who was infinitely close to the special grade, but he seemed to be a okay person, still gagging with sheer. That kind of arrogant aura, inexplicably radiated from him. Boss, have you heard of Baigia? Advertisement. Shire lifted Erlang's legs, and between the palms of his hands, a storage cursed spirit on his shoulder opened his mouth, spitting out a can of beer. It was stained with a bit of sticky liquid. But she did not care to open the beer. Take a sip of it happily. It suddenly occurred to Ryuichi that he hadn't seen this guy drink water since he won the bet against Zenin Shire. Instead, he seemed to have an endless beer in his hand all the time. It was a drinking machine without feelings. This is a bit similar to the Zenin patriarch who drove him out of the house. Baigia. What is that? The so-called 100 families refer to the entire Fusang Jujutsu community, which has been passed down to the current families since the Warring States period. However, the number of them is actually not as many as 100, but these guys, you know, for the sake of inexplicable faces, they have to be called Baigia. Thousands of years ago, these families formed the Jujutsu Alliance, nominally to unite the major sorcerer families and better eliminate the cursed spirit, but in fact, there are other problems. As Sheer spoke, he touched Rushwanya's head with the palm of his hand as if he was stroking a puppy. Continue to say, I actually knew these guys before. There must be some kind of secret in their backs. The old guys of the Zen Yuan family are always mysterious, talking about covenants, what kind of nonsense such as thousands of years. But I searched through all the information, and I couldn't find the reasons why the families that were even opposing families at the time formed an alliance. But today I finally know the real reason for all this. A smug smile appeared at the corner of Sheer's mouth. Old fellows, you are trying to hide the truth from Lao Su, for fear that Lao Su will find the truth. Did you find it? Ryuichi is obviously also very interested in this matter. After all, Thousands of years ago, it coincided with the war years. For the benefit of their own families, the big families can be said to be unscrupulous, in order to obtain victory and resources. In that era, there was no alliance. The so-called allies were just in the middle of the war, and they needed to beware of another opponent who stabbed the knife from behind. But, the situation of all this was completely changed with a war that was erased from the history books. Although Ryuichi doesn't know how lonely the jujutsu teacher of the last era was. But it deeply understands people's hearts. Advertisement. Human desire is like a mountain rolling stone, once it starts, it will not stop. As Shire said earlier, the oldest aristocratic families have formed alliances, but hearing this incident in Ryuichi's ears is like a shocking joke. According to the information that Ryuichi has, thousands of years ago, the big three sorcerer families could almost sweep other families. Even if the three companies join forces, the entire jujutsu world will surrender to it. There is no need for the so-called hundreds at all. Even if the general trend is to form an alliance, the prerequisite for everyone to sit together in an alliance is that everyone has the right to overturn the table. However, it is clear that, with the exception of the Usanjia, the other major families have no right to overturn the table, or even the qualifications to be on the stage. But the 100 family really exists today. It even has an extremely far-reaching influence. Rukawa's ability to be invited to participate in the royal contest is the best proof. Once a person has a hammer, everything is nailed. Big three sorcerer families is equivalent to the only existence in that era with a hammer in his hand. There is only one possibility for them to put down the hammer, or even pull the nails out of the quagmire. That was the world 1,000 years ago. There is an absolutely powerful presence. His existence forced the alliance of all families in that entire age. The beasts as powerful as the big three sorcerer families also need to be included in the forest, to have a sufficient sense of security. All kinds of thoughts were thinking quickly in Ryuichi's mind. Finally, he suddenly thought of the last words Lu Xuanya, who used Shimen Jujutsu to stop the cursed spirit army, said to his family. Door. Ryuichi and Shire said his name almost indiscriminately. Open black lens bracket door. Close black lens bracket. This is hidden behind the existence of 100 families, the deepest secret. Chapter 114. Advertisement. And Lu Xuanya, who was sitting under her, turned pale. Oh, boss, do you also know door? Shire heard that his boss actually said the door's name, and suddenly he was a little confused. Could it be that Ryuichi knew about the existence of Gate a long time ago? Shire thought to himself. Ryuichi rubbed his chin and said. Just now I heard some people send messages to the Jujutsu Association, saying that I am coming to grab some door. Then this guy hurriedly rushed to give the head away. Following Ryuichi's gaze, Shire saw the poor fellow who looked like a mummy. As this guy from the Jujutsu Association? Yes, I heard that he is still an acting president, with good ability, and a field. Ryuichi didn't belittle his opponent, but made a very objective evaluation. In all fairness, the strength of number 3 is actually very tyrannical. Master the ability to arbitrarily adjust the amount of power and spell power. The body is close to Zenin's level. After the magic power is converted, it can even compete with the super cursed spirit. The domain is capable of plundering all the strength of the loser, and it can also drop the strength and weakness. All kinds of tricky abilities, even if Zenin Shire was dragged into the field by him, they might not be able to defeat the opponent. But unfortunately, this guy chose the wrong opponent. Of course, the Jujutsu Association will not stand idly by. They can develop to this level, except for the support of the Fuso country. More importantly, because of the existence of Gate. She squinted his eyes slightly, drank the beer in his hand, turned into a ball, and threw it out at random. So what exactly is door? Ryuichi stood up straight, as if feeling something, shaking his body from side to side, as if he was preparing something. Share, who was sitting on Rushwanya, also slowly stood up. With a twist of his wrist, the bloodthirsty dagger that Ryuichi had refined for him fluttered in his palm like a butterfly. The door as a seal. Rumble, with Shire's words fell. There was a thunder in the sky instantly. The terrifying power like a tribulation broke out on the top of the two people's heads in an instant. Advertisement. Under the terrifying breath, the entire sky was like red clouds. The bright red like a maple leaf seems to be the only color in this world. The surrounding space trembled slightly. All the flowing clouds in the sky are broken. Above the earth, the huge deep pit created by the number 3 unexpectedly began to grow out of soil strangely. Everything around is operating in a very strange law. The breeze began to fall, the green smoke began to fall, and the bunch of wine jars that Shire threw out unexpectedly began to constantly return to its original shape. Watching such a magical scene all around, Ryuichi showed a somewhat solemn look that was rare. The highlight is coming. He felt that what was about to appear before his eyes would be one of the true culminations in this world. Ryuichi can foresee it just by relying on his breath. This guy is at least a horrible existence comparable to Gojo Satoru 12 years later. Click. The surrounding space began to appear mirror-like cracks because of the tyrannical curse power. Above the sky, the little old man slowly emerged. He is wearing a white robe, holding a black walking stick in his hand, and a strange wine gourd on his waist. It is strange because a normal wine gourd is at least the size of a bottle, but his gourd does slap no size. With his appearance, a meaningful smile came from the corner of Ryuichi's mouth. Is this the existence behind the Jujutsu Association? Interesting, I didn't expect that besides Tianyuan, there are such terrible human beings. Ryuichi conjectured Tianyuan, the most mysterious and unpredictable existence in the entire Jujutsu world. He who possesses the immortal Jujutsu, claims to have existed since the birth of Fuso's civilization. He was regarded as a Jujutsu mentor and guided countless Jujutsu teachers out of the Dark Ages. But for some reason, Ryuichi had some inexplicable resistance to the name Tianyuan. The instinct of seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages from six immortal thief treasury was contradicting the existence of Tianyuan. This time the first shot was to get rid of the Rukawa family who wanted to murder him. Second, and most importantly, he wants to see what power lies behind the Jujutsu Association, which is rising inexplicably behind everything. I want to see if there is any shadow of Tianyuan that claims to be immortal behind this. But obviously, although he was so aggressive and powerful, it was definitely not Tianyuan. Advertisement. Otherwise, Ryuichi, who would be uncomfortable just hearing the words Tianyuan, would have instinctively reacted to her body. Young man, don't be unforgiving. The Rushuan family has survived in name only. They paid their due price, and you also killed our number 3 chairman. Diaresis to be forgiving and forgiving, it is better to look at the face of the old man. How about this matter? Although the old man's words were vague and not leaking, how could Ryuichi, who was so wise and close to the demon, couldn't hear the meaning? At this time, the other party wanted to hide the secret of Door in this way. For this reason, he can even accept that his own wireless is close to the death of a super strong person. Click. Everything in the surroundings began to slowly disappear as the old man landed. That bright red keeps passing away. It's as if everything in Zongjin is an illusion, never appearing. Only the restored beer can shows that what happened just now is not nothing. The object shimmered and the sky changed color. With such strength, even Ryuichi at this moment may not be able to achieve it. Regarding the degree of control of the curse power, even with the blessing of Shenji Tien and 6 immortal thief treasury, he may not be the opponent of this old guy. Ryuichi looked up and down several times at the old man. The old man also glanced at Ryuichi in front of him. Both are without words. All of a sudden, there was a bit of silence in the scene. It seems that all the noise is covered by the curse power controlled to the extreme. A hint of surprise flashed across the old man's heart. He hadn't exerted his power yet. Zenin Shire had no curse power, so it was the boy in front of him who did all this. Let the curse power in the air vibrate in the opposite direction along with the vibration of the sounds of all things at the same time, so as to cancel all the sounds before they are transmitted and appear. Then there will be such a silent scene of everything. This is for the curse power that is already difficult to control. The difficulty is no different, holding the tip of the sword to fight with people. No. 3. You didn't die. This guy is a real monster. The old man thought to himself. Even though he can do it with such a method, he may not be able to do it so delicately. From meeting to now, the first invisible confrontation between the two ended in a tie. Chapter 115. Advertisement. The Zhen Yuan family is also a well-known person, this is the truth, presumably the little friend still understands. The old man's tone is very calm, it seems that with his arrival, the whole Rukawa family can be decided by him alone. This is the self-confidence and arrogance that comes from absolute strength. It is true that the old man's self-confidence is not groundless, even the current Ryuichi seems too immature to him. Although the micromanagement of that hand of curse power is almost to the extreme, it is far from being a threat to him. More importantly, with the appearance of this old man, all the power that appeared in all directions of the entire Rukawa family was instantly concentrated on one point. Dozens of powerful waves of curse power almost began to resonate in a dimension of the same frequency. Ryuichi felt that some inexplicable pressure was concentrated on him. All the elites dispatched by the Jujutsu Association for this mission did not conceal their strength, unscrupulously gathered curse power, and burst out with the elderly as the leader. See this scenario. In Ryuichi's eyes, there was a brightness that no one had ever seen before. In the eyes of Yubai, there was a rapid surge of scarlet. Click. Boom. The curse on his body is concentrated, and behind him is like a blood moon resurrected. With a crisp sound of click, the wave of curse power that looked like a hill turned into nothingness. The tyrannical curse smoothed out all the filth. Are you threatening me? He looked at the old man who suddenly appeared in front of him, his tone was deeply abused, and a touch of evil was on his face. No, the old man just wants to make some sense with the little friend. The old man didn't feel angry because of Ryuichi's disrespectful attitude. Even if he is in a high position, above 10,000 people. But the full force did not corrode his chichao and exquisite heart, on the contrary, it made him see it more realistically. In front of him this little boy. To some extent, it is an existence that has absolute qualifications to sit on the same table with itself. Advertisement. Regardless of the Zhen Yuan family's attitude towards him. It is Zenin Ryuichi's own strength and talent. In addition, the old man actually didn't want to really tear his face apart with Zenin's family. After all the considerations, the old man's voice became a little softer, which is rare. As for the one in his own association, the same high authority, but now it looks like a dead dog, the number 3 lying on the ground, seems to have been completely forgotten by the old man. With the hands of others, pruning and cutting leaves, why not do it? Oh, reason. Your old man, who came here not far away is just to make sense and reason. Then I am really interested. Ryuichi was so confused by the old man's words that he folded his hands on his chest, and gently pressed his chin on it. In the eyes like the sky, the figure of the old man was reflected. There seemed to be some ripples all around, like a dead sea, boring. The Jujutsu Association, once and now, it has been explicitly forbidden to fight again between major families. The battle between the families is even more cancerous than the cursed spirit for humans. How many human geniuses did not die on the way to eliminate the cursed spirit, but died because of the infighting between humans? If this vicious circle is not restrained, even if the cursed spirit in this world disappears completely, human beings will one day die in the hands of Jujutsu. As he spoke, the old man's muddy eyes, which seemed to sink to the bottom of mud, kept watching Ryuichi. He uttered his reason, word by word, and his tone was awe-inspiring. It seems that the impact of Ryuichi's trip will destroy mankind. A high hat was silently buttoned on Ryuichi's head. Not only is his strength strong, his speech skills, his temperament, and the elderly are all showing off. Little friends, Master Jujutsu can die on the road to destroy cursed spirit, or give everything to destroy curse. However, there has never been a reason to lose one's precious life because of internal fighting. Listening to what the old man said, Zenin Ryuichi slowly dropped his hands and looked at the old man several times. This remark can be said to be a statement from the heart. It directly raises what Ryuichi has done above the righteousness of mankind. It even described Ryuichi's revenge as a meaningless infighting. Under his aura that looked like the dome of Mount Tai, what he said was even more impressive with majesty and strength. Advertisement. If ordinary people heard this, they might have doubted their behavior long ago, and they would even have full respect for the old man. But this word fell in Ryuichi's ears, and it really changed a few times. The deceptive power in the old man's voice made him even more disdainful. His eyebrows were raised lightly, and his narrow eyes were closed, with a somewhat inexplicable meaning. His trademark smile gradually came to the corner of his mouth. He looked at the old man in front of him and said, like an elder brother of a family who has no charm in the world. You are right. I think there is a bit of truth, but don't you think it is a bit shallow? Ryuichi's tone paused a little, and he clearly saw the old man's eyes shrink slightly. It seems a bit weird. Exterminate cursed spirit and extinct curse. You need to know that the old man's words and skills are combined with Jujutsu's blessing, and some psychological hints are added. Even if you say that it is the control of power and power, I respect you 3 points of frankness. The young man in front of him didn't even make the slightest choice, and he directly refuted the old man's words. People have a kind of unspeakable fear, or awe. Although I don't have much enthusiasm for these things, I also have some respect for those who gave their lives for them. However, the truth in your mouth is clearly the biggest insult to these Jujutsu masters who have dedicated everything to the world. The tone became somewhat inexplicable. The reason, which he has always been unfavorable, actually overturned the car here in this young man. Isn't there any fluctuations? My mind is so tough at such an age. Ryuichi's eyes narrowed slightly, as if something was brewing. The elderly Jujutsu can clearly perceive a person's mood swings. From his appearance to the present, Zenin Shire has had no less than 3 murderous intentions, and the mood swings are like a roller coaster. But this young man, from beginning to end, was like a rock, unshakable. Even if the world was subverted, he still stood above the sky. But even Gojo Satoru had become a bit at a loss under his preaching. There has hardly ever been a situation where anyone could refute him in such a situation. Chapter 116. Advertisement. Ryuichi's voice sounded slowly, with an indescribable indifference. In his eyes, there seemed to be countless chaotic evolutions, and it seemed as if the sun and the moon were flowing backwards. The old man suddenly felt a little bit of fear in this young man. That always feels not from the comparison of the supremacy of strength, but the game of Xinxing. The mountains rise up and the sky falls to the Milky Way. For Master Jujutsu, when his own curse power reaches a certain level, the gap in the flow of curse power is already infinitely similar. And after this level, the importance of Xinxing is thoroughly revealed out. Talent, Jujutsu, curse power, is the trace that a person has engraved in his blood from the moment he was born. It is a gulf that cannot be crossed no matter how hard you try. The fairest and most unfair in the world is this talent that cannot be rewritten. Talent determines where more than 80% of Jujutsu teachers can go. But, and the remaining 2 become people who have extra opportunities, then there is a kind of person who has a bad temperament. In other words, Xinxing itself is a kind of talent. This kind of talent is different from the inscribed Jujutsu. He can't make you become extremely powerful in the shortest time. But it is when you are promoted above the top. The only tenacity. What the heart thinks, What the mind asks, the curse power comes from emotions. Jujutsu master relies on his own emotions to obtain the curse power. The stronger the person who can fully control his own character, the more tyrannical. The old man looked at the 16-year-old in front of him, and he didn't even have a fraction of his own. In the eyes, a little dignified appeared unconsciously. At this moment, he completely put Ryuichi in a position equal to himself. Not because of his strength, not because of his family, but completely because, at this moment, Zenin Ryuichi's mind is like the sky above the clouds and cannot be looked at directly. Ryuichi didn't seem to care about the change of the old man. The laziness in him has long since disappeared without a trace. The whole body seemed to be bright. In the words, each and every sentence was deeply left in the heart of the old man. No matter the family, no matter the cursed spirit, you have to fight back when you are beaten, and you have to admit punishment if you make a mistake. He was not wrong, and I was not wrong. The Jujutsu master who died for family honor is not wrong, and the Jujutsu master who fights for his own dreams is not wrong. Advertisement. The most ironic sentence in this world is the so-called, should, and worthy. What should be and what is worth. Weighing the pros and cons is the difference between the strong. He took revenge for his son, I don't think he was wrong. But, he just shouldn't provoke me. What an understatement of these two words is said, and how much it beats Ling Ran. But, I'm sorry, if you really think you can use these two words to suppress me. Ryuichi's voice paused slightly, and a curve of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. I don't mind, talk a little with this world. Reason. The voice fell. Behind Ryuichi, black thunders exploded out of thin air, and the surrounding radiance was endless and dazzling. Yulin turned into a flood of flowers and lingered beside him. Click. The space uttered a bit of overwhelmed grief. The countless clouds in the sky were all annihilated under the terrifying aura. Everyone knows that there is no second day. However, in the eyes of the elderly, a scarlet and weird blood moon, from behind Ryuichi, slowly floated and hung high in the sky. The whole world seemed to have entered the bloody kingdom. You have to kill him. The old man's words seemed to be squeezed from between his teeth, and his voice was a bit sullen. Hearing this, Ryuichi glanced at Rukawaga, who was kneeling on the ground like a sculpture. Although there was no word, the almost substantive murderous aura had already broken through the clouds. Like a demon god, the demon flame is overwhelming. Base. A cold light burst into the void, and the stars seemed to pass through the gap. Lu Xuanya's eyes quickly dissipated with boiling water, and her hands tightly covered her neck. However, the blood could not stop splashing from the throat. Until the moment the old man appeared, he still felt that he could survive. But this thought just appeared, and the cold sharp blade instantly cut his throat. Click. Without the slightest struggle, Lu Xuanya's corpse lay on the ground in a daze. Until the end, the trace of regret in his eyes never disappeared. Advertisement. Seeking flowers. Zenin Xie took out a handkerchief from his arms and wiped the blood stains from the blade carefully. I ignored the old man's look that seemed to be cannibalistic. Said lightly, how can I trouble the boss to do this kind of thing himself? Haha, even if you say that, don't want me to raise your salary. The two completely ignored the old man and started discussing on their own. And the old man on the side had an anger in his eyes. This is tantamount to a provocation against the Jujutsu Association. Zenin Ryuichi, do you know what kind of power you provoked? 0. In the entire Jujutsu world, nearly 80% of Jujutsu teachers are registered in the association. Among them, there are no less than dozens of first-level Jujutsu teachers, and there are countless second-level Jujutsu teachers. Have you considered how to face it? Have we been angry? The old man's voice became extremely loud. The constant reverberation in all directions, the shock seems to form a strange charm. It seemed that Rushwanya's death was not cared by him at all. The old man's voice was a little seductive, and he looked at Ryuichi's eyes as if a flame of desire burst into his eyes. Said word by word, sudden. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. If I guarantee you, the entire Jujutsu community will shut up. Quote. As long as you promise me one condition. Conditions. The boss looks like someone is going to do business with you. Still waiting for Ryuichi to say something. The hideousness on his face is constantly converging. I can also help you register new forces, and with your strength and my support, in the future, the Zenyuan family you most look down on will be stepped on by you. It seems. He was actually looking forward to the death of Rushwanya. Tisk tusk. Cheryl didn't finish her words, but a bit of yin and yang was ridiculed. Earth. His terrifying aura suddenly curved. It's really rare. I didn't expect our first big business to come from. Staring closely at Ryuichi's eyes. I don't need to hold you accountable for killing the Rukawa family, and I can even help you conceal the truth of the annihilation. Chapter 117. Advertisement. He seems to have some inexplicable malice towards the people of the Jujutsu Association. The frivolity and ignorance in the words make no secret. But for these old people, he didn't care. For a person like him, this level of yin and yang is hard to shake him. The final decision person is Zenin Ryuichi, and his attitude is the most important. Ryuichi casually brushed the black hair on his forehead back. Didn't figure out what medicine was bought in the gourd that I remembered or obtained. What conditions? Leave door to me. Open black lens bracket door close black lens bracket. Yes. Just leave door to me, and I promise that no one will disturb you again. Everything I promised earlier will take effect, and I swear by my Jujutsu Association, the #1 acting president. As long as you can give me door. 403. The old man looked at Ryuichi earnestly, with a sincere expression, and his tone was full of sincerity. Ryuichi seems to have a very strong interest in this so-called door. The big buckle with the finger lightly hit his own joints. Then aimed at Shire, is that door with you? Of course, the geese go to pluck their hair, the beasts leave their skins, boss your rules, but I think you should be more interested in door boss. Shere Hun stretched out his hand without hesitation. A small black stone Buddha appeared in front of the two of them. Accompanied by the appearance of the stone Buddha. In the courtyard, there seemed to be an inexplicable overcast wind. Ryuichi's eyes shrank slightly. It seems to be aware of something. An invisible excitement appeared in his eyes. That is. ... Captain, you said, is Zenin Ryuichi really as strong as the legend? If you can really fight with Gojo Satoru back and forth, I'm afraid Rukawa will be more fortunate this time. A member of the action team, dressed in black, lowered his voice on the periphery of the Rukawa family's mansion, and whispered to the middle-aged man with a beard on the side. After hearing this, the captain gave this brat who had just joined the association in a very concealed manner. Then he looked around carefully. Seeing that his friends put all their energies on the mansion, he said in a low voice. Advertisement. Can you talk nonsense about this kind of thing? Others don't know, but I know very well in my heart that Zenin Ryuichi beat Gojo Satoru in the Prince match, which my friend saw with his own eyes. He is the descendant of the Ino family. Is he fortunate enough to participate in the Prince test, but he was knocked out by Zenin Ryuichi without even having a face-to-face encounter. Ah, really? The heir of the Ino family, is it the first-level Jujutsu teacher, Anoda? The man in black looked at his captain incredulously. It is impossible to imagine what kind of terrible monster it is that can knock the first-level Jujutsu teacher out with one punch. Do you want to know the first-level Jujutsu division of 100 schools, but the strength is far better than other Jujutsu divisions? Speak down. The captain looked at the frizzy man in black and covered his opponent's mouth. The man in black murmured a few times, then pleaded for mercy with pitiful eyes, and then he regained his freedom. Okay. Don't talk about it, things of that level are not something we can participate in. And it doesn't matter if Zenin Ryuichi really has super strength. Agent President #1 is here, he is the real highest sequence, powerhouse. Okay. Stop the ink, hurry up and concentrate the curse power. This is our first large-scale operation. No one can save you except the trouble. While speaking, he kicked the man in black on the A. The black-clothed man smiled brilliantly, shrank his neck, quickly concentrated on the curse, and performed it with all his strength. The captain walked into the shadows aside. Watching vigilantly in the corner, a red light the size of a mung bean suddenly appeared. Under the fluctuation of his curse power, there shouldn't be any existence that can escape his perception. What? Quack quack, quack quack. The black crow flew out of the shadow in an instant, with scarlet eyes gleaming with blood. It turned out to be a crow. It seems I've been too tired recently, making me a little suspicious. The captain breathed a sigh of relief. Just about to turn around and return to his post. Suddenly, his shoulders sank suddenly. It seemed that something had climbed onto his body. A dark crow, with strange eyes, stood quietly on his shoulder, staring at the captain's glasses. Go, go, go. The captain waved impatiently to drive away the crow on his shoulder. Even though he didn't have so many taboos, he felt bad for the crow that brought misfortune in the legend of Fuzang. Sudden, a black light appeared in the crow's eyes, and the light was extremely weak. Next moment, advertisement. A big hand suddenly appeared in the crow's eyes. It was directly on the captain's head. What? Before he could even make a sound, his mouth was tightly covered by the terrifying big hand. The body walked uncontrollably towards the shadows. A thin layer of smoke rose up all around, as if it was a bit of haze. Captain, are you okay? Team leader. Seeing that his captain hadn't come back for a long time, the man in black hurried over to check. But I don't know why. He always feels flustered in his heart. Click. Ah, a big hand slammed on the shoulder of the man in black, making the man in black who was a little scared yelled. What's your name? Go back to your place quickly. The captain appeared behind him and scolded. Holding the man in black by the collar is like walking outside. Behind him, a weird big hand, on top of his skin, kept walking. In the blink of an eye, he completely dashed under the captain's skin. Quack quack. The crow wailed in midair. The black feathers fell all over the sky. Vaguely, it's like an invisible big hand. Covered the entire sky. The owner of those hands showed an evil and pure smile. It seems to be watching another spectacular drama. One game, with Big Three sorcerer families, Jujutsu Association, as a supporting role. A comedy, with blood. Chapter 118. Advertisement. The stone Buddha bumped up and down in Shire's hands. It seemed that it was just an ordinary stone Buddha, but it attracted all the attention of the high-ranking acting president number 1. It's like looking at some supreme treasure. There is deep greed hidden in his eyes. Like a terrifying beast, he opened his mouth wide, as if he wanted to swallow everything. Ryuichi even saw it, and number one's throat moved up and down. Boss, what do you say? Cher waved a big hand and grabbed the stone Buddha in his hand. No. One's heart seemed to be squeezed hard by something. The soul is pale, violent to the heavens. Seeing that stone Buddha seemed to be treated like that. An unprovoked anger arose from my heart. But his complexion was as usual, without the slightest expression of emotion. As this the door. Even number one hides his thoughts very concealedly. But, how could it have escaped? Ryuichi's eyes are almost predictive. He looked at the stone Buddha, and deep curse power surged in his eyes. Click. His eyes shrank slightly. It seems to have seen 23 brand new toys. Among the unpretentious stone Buddha, he saw a very terrifying and evil curse. The breath of curse was terrifying. Even though he had fallen asleep, it still made Ryuichi's body feel a bit stiff. This is the first time Ryuichi has instinctively noticed after coming to this world. Crisis. Enough to make him have a crisis of risk of falling. Hidden in the stone Buddha. If. The words of curse's recovery. I am afraid that even the current self can hardly eliminate each other. You feel it. Number one looked at Ryuichi very keenly. He noticed the stiffness of Ryuichi's body at that moment. He was so mature that he immediately understood that this rare one had broken the seal on the door. Advertisement. Interesting. What is inside of it? A monster of this level, I believe, even if the Rukawa family's ancestors are strong, they cannot be sealed. This kind of curse is not something that can breed in this era. Cursed spirit was born in the negative emotions of human beings. The larger the negative emotions, the more powerful curse can be derived. In the current society, although there is no shortage of powerful special cursed spirit. But this era is compared to the bloody warring states era. It's not worth mentioning. In that era wrapped in negative emotions, numerous terrible cursed spirits have spawned. Only in that era would it be born, possessing such a terrifying and profound aura. The breath is even far above the tempest. This is not something you should know about being qualified now. One obviously didn't want to reveal too much to Ryuichi. Waved his hand without hesitation. BWGB. B. But Ryuichi obviously doesn't take his set. There was a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. He tapped his finger lightly on his forehead, looked at number one in confusion and said. I don't seem to be discussing with you, the door seems to be in our hands. Or do you think? Are you doing it faster? Are we squeezing the stone Buddha faster? Do you want to try it? Although Ryuichi doesn't know why this old guy values the stone Buddha so much. But he knew that this guy was definitely not the kind of person who would succumb to fear of cursed spirit cholera. This righteous old guy is the true self-reliant. Benevolence, justice and morality are nothing but a method he uses. If this method is not only unable to help him, then he will not hesitate to abandon the emotion that makes him feel useless. So, Ryuichi knows that what this guy really cares about is not to protect the stone Buddha, but that the stone Buddha is their door, which absolutely has an ulterior secret. Because of this secret, number one can even confuse Ryuichi without hesitating to promise such superior conditions. Although Shire already knew the secrets about men and Baigia. But Ryuichi's evil taste made him force number one to say it personally, which is the most obscure secret. Number one frowned. Looking at Ryuichi, the anger in his eyes rose to the sky. The hands holding the crutches kept trembling slightly with anger. Shire looked at the scene in front of him with gusto. Advertisement. I thought to myself, no wonder Ryuichi is his own boss. This big joy, if he comes, it is estimated that he will say it all in one brain at the most. There is no chance to see the big show in front of me. What he hates most now is why he drank that can of beer earlier. It's a pity that I didn't have any drinks to make such a big show. Little friend, don't go too far. Excessive. You can choose not to say it. However, this thing looks like an evil spirit, hanging at the door of the house of everything. It should be quite fun. Ryuichi's tone is still so lazy. But, the threat in the tone was indeed beyond words. Number one closed his eyes slightly, quickly pressed down the anger in his heart, and his teeth trembled slightly. Finally said in a deep voice. You should know that the mantra power is the accumulation of negative emotions. Master Jujutsu has engravings in his body, and he can extract the mantra power from the negative emotions for his own use. The curse power of ordinary people is excluded because there is no inscription. The curse power is constantly accumulated due to the accumulation of emotions, and curse is gradually produced. This knowledge is the common sense that a Jujutsu master must master in today's society, but in that era, when the Jujutsu master was still groping for Jujutsu, the power of the Jujutsu master's spell would flow out of the body uncontrollably. Hiss. Halfway through number one's words, Ryuichi's heart was full of coolness. Master Jujutsu's curse is 100 times stronger than ordinary people. Once the curse power of an ordinary Jujutsu master has completely flowed out, the strength of the formed curse will surely far exceed that of the ordinary cursed spirit. That kind of curse power is integrated into the accumulated emotions, and it will produce incomparable terrifying power. In that era of war, the negative emotions were like earth, wood, sand and dust, all over Fuzang. The Jujutsu masters who had just sensed the existence of the curse power were unable to master their own curse power. Where a lot of curse power flows, then, what a terrible curse will be created. Even with Ryuichi's indifferent state of mind, he couldn't help being a little bit astonished. You should have also thought about the consequences of that situation. The voice of number one became very distant. The endless bright red behind him continues to evolve. It seemed to bring everything back to the world where death and destruction became the main theme. The war was raging, the corpses were everywhere, and between the heaven and the earth, endless murderous auras filled the city into nothingness. The blood turned into a long river of blood. This scene. It's like Styx is resurrecting. The abyss is coming again. Chapter 119. Advertisement. The smell of blood continues to spread in the space. Ryuichi's body straightened unconsciously, and bursts of black smoke slowly rose behind him. Looking at that bloody color from a distance, they collided with each other without any retreat. This scene was not deliberately done by the two of them, but under the strong will surging, the powerful curse power of Mandarin, unintentionally, constantly linked together to become a domain-like existence. If it weren't for Ryuichi's curse power, it was also extremely powerful, cancelling out the curse power of number one. Now, I am afraid that this self and others have been drawn into the horrible age that is constantly changing. There is a bit of vicissitudes and loneliness in number one's eyes. This old man, who was already aging, leaked out of his body a breath of death. The fire of life that was originally burning on his body seemed to fade slightly at this moment. In those days, the curse power that Jujutsu couldn't control was scattered throughout Fuso, combined with the terrifying negative emotions. The consequence is, the history of mankind was almost wiped out by that group of terrifying cursed spirits. The humans of that era were deeply shrouded in the haze that covered everything, even the mighty big three sorcerer families, but they could barely survive there. That age, number one's voice paused slightly. A breeze blew by, as if to disperse the dark shadow in his heart. In that era, humans were the rations of the cursed spirit. They even called themselves gods, accepted the offerings of mankind, and devoured the heirs of mankind. In that era, human beings couldn't see everything. A man seems to appear out of thin air. He has assembled all his strengths and used the jujutsu among the major families to refine a powerful jujutsu that is not remembered by history. After countless human jujutsu masters gave their lives one after another, all cursed spirits have been sealed. As Ryuichi listened to number one's narration, he seemed to see that era of wars. Countless human ancestors were reduced to rations under the terrifying cursed spirit. The offspring becomes a dessert. The blood was cut off. Doors are those seals that have been handed down since ancient times. Yes, since 1,000 years ago, the door has been kept by the family that survived that year. Those families are called hundreds of families. The Rukawa family, one of the 100 that once represented the supreme honor, has appeared with Ryuichi and fell apart. That honor once was completely turned into a shadow of the past under the unfilial piety of his children. Since they can be sealed, can't they be completely wiped out? Although Shire has always been a little bit worried because he couldn't become a jujutsu teacher. Advertisement. But at the moment, it is also somewhat exaggerated by number one's words. Hearing what Shire said, number one shook his head slightly. His body moved a few steps towards Shire Invisible. The cursed spirit will not be truly destroyed. As long as the human beings still exist, as long as there is a curse power that cannot be resolved, they will continue to breed. No one can guarantee that these terrifying cursed spirits will make a comeback again in the future. Therefore, sealing is a more secure method than exclusion. Shi-er's eyes fell. I didn't notice, the number one on the side seemed to be a little closer to him. But all this has fallen into Ryuichi's eyes. Base. Suddenly exerted force under the feet. The tyrannical force made the ground shake a little bit. Next moment, his figure has already appeared in front of Shi-er. Randomly picked up the stone Buddha from Shire's hand, and inadvertently drew his eyes across number one's face. Although he concealed it well, but Ryuichi was still aware of the irritation he had hidden deep in his heart. Little fox. Old stuff. The two cursed at the same time in their hearts. Although the story in mouth number one was rendered with unparalleled rendering, even under his special guidance, it almost completely immersed people in it. But Ryuichi didn't hesitate at all. Wrong. How to be impassioned, how to be on the scene. Ryuichi is like standing in the perspective of God, looking down at the unscrupulous old man in front of him. Because Ryuichi knows, for a strong person who has reached this level of strength, it is almost impossible to shake the opponent's Xingxing. A power pusher who uses everything in the dark. One sacrificed his allies for temptation. A selfish person who has no mechanism for anything but himself has appeared in his eyes from beginning to end. How could one be shocked by the grand history that once existed? All this is just the means that number one showed off. You cannot protect this thing. The seal of door has been loosened. Except for the Jujutsu Association, all other families have their own door, and the remaining ordinary families are unable to protect the existence of door. Quote. Advertisement. Diaresis so, leave it to me. Bringing door to me is the most correct choice. Number one's face was righteous. It seems that the stone Buddha is just a bag of explosives, whoever gets it will die. And he is willing to be that hero. Ryuichi looked at the hypocritical number one, and there was a bit of joking hidden in the moon-white eyes. Is it really the only way? If he is just a seal, then why do I feel it, kind of, Jujutsu, aura? Rumble. The voice just fell. The terrifying force burst out instantly on number one's body. It was like a terrifying hurricane, raging around everything. Titicaca. Cracks continue to appear on the ground centered on number one. Ryuichi looked at the one who became angry. When is the Jujutsu Association eligible to participate in the 100 Family Affairs? Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Maz Zhao, my patience is limited. The air smelled of burning gunpowder. The atmosphere between the two fell to freezing point once again. Zenin Ryuichi, the old man, as the number one acting president of the Jujutsu Association, condescended to talk to you so much. I think you should know. Properties. Through the cracks, it is like countless magma, wanting to gush out. The killing intent blooms without concealment. On the surface, the clouds are light and windy. In fact, the power of the three stunts is quickly mobilized. Like an angry tiger, a loud voice resounded in the courtyard untimely. I do not know how. Seeing a big battle is about to take place. The moment Ryuichi said that Jujutsu was on the door, I was offended into a minefield. The number one who has forcibly endured all this. Chapter 120. Advertisement. When is the Jujutsu Association eligible to participate in the 100 Family Affairs? I do not know how. A loud voice sounded abruptly in the courtyard. Hearing the familiar voice in his ears, Ryuichi's brows couldn't help but frown, and there was an extremely obvious dissatisfaction on his face. The number one on the opposite side is even more exaggerated. His eyes shrank quickly, and his wrinkled old face twitched lightly. Damn it. If you don't come early, if you don't come late, I will come at this time. Click. The figure of a man appeared in front of everyone in an instant. The speed is fast, no, or the speed of that man is hard to describe as fast. It seems to appear in front of everyone under a certain rule, and it should be so. A traditional Japanese kimono was randomly draped over his body. The wide kimono exposed his chest, and his chest was stained a bit by a stain of wine. A white wine gourd was held in his hand, and the fragrance of wine was constantly rippling around. Two very iconic long beards drifting casually in the wind. Long time no see, little Ryuichi. While speaking, there was a bit of nobility, but a bit of humiliation like scorn was hidden. Ryuichi didn't mean to pay attention to this guy. Just a cold look at the other party. Oh, it's really cold. Anyway, I'm also your uncle. Zenin Niobe, I seem to have said that now I have nothing to do with the Zenin family anymore. I don't want to say the same thing again. Tell those old guys that I have no interest in your so-called patriarch status. I can still look at her now and pretend that I don't know anything. Ryuichi looked at the man who appeared suddenly in front of him, and his tone became farther and worse than before. This man in a kimono is the Zenin patriarch of this generation, one of the leaders of big three sorcerer families, a special first-level jujutsu master, Zenin Naomi. At this moment, he listened to Ryuichi's rebellious words without the slightest anger. Single quote. Advertisement. On the contrary, there is a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. The look of a dead pig who is not afraid of boiling water makes Ryuichi have nothing to do. If the Zenin family did something excessive, Ryuichi might be better able to solve it. The only thing is to solve the root of the trouble. Although I don't know what the Zenin family has, Ryuichi, who has mastered 8 special skills, has absolute self-confidence. Even if he couldn't do it now, but when the 4th and 5th stunt were unlocked, he still had the confidence to destroy the Zenin family. But, the fact is that since Ryuichi revealed his terrifying talent and strength, the Zenin family has completely exploded their rogue nature. Regardless of Ryuichi's attitude towards them, they took the principle of reaching out and not hitting smiley people to the extreme. Almost all the cumbersome things Ryuichi will encounter will have the shadow of the Zenin family behind them. This kind of behavior, like licking a dog, actually made Ryuichi not know what to do with Zenin's house. Simply, just ignore it, take all the benefits, and leave it alone. But it is true, Zenin's house is more exciting. Even Ryuichi's current high-priced housing estates have been bought by Zenin's family and listed under Ryuichi's name. But even though the Zenin family paid so much, Ryuichi still doesn't have any good feelings for the family. Ha ha ha, don't be angry. Zenin Niobe was ha-ha, while pouring the wine in the wine gourd into his mouth. The corners of the Sake's mouth slipped, and he really didn't care. I'm just telling you the fact. Ryuichi's voice was cold and emotionless, his brows twisted in disgust, and the tiredness in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Every time I saw someone from the Zenin family appear in front of me, the thorn in my heart would be a little bit painful. This feeling makes Ryuichi extremely disgusted, even disgusting. Zenin Niobe, are you here to reclaim Gate? Looking at the Zenin Niobe who seemed to be trying to pull up the family, number 1 quickly pulled the topic back. Zenin Niobe heard his words, shook his head and turned around, looking at the number 1 who was more than 1 head shorter than him, cracked his big mouth and revealed a meaningful smile. The tone is no longer as kind as he used to talk to Ryuichi. It has become a bit strict and severe. Just now, did you want to do something with Zenin Ryuichi? Advertisement. I'm asking how you want to deal with the problem of door. I'll ask again, you just now. Yes, I want to be right. Did Zenin Ryuichi make a move? Zenin Niobe's accent was particularly heavy on Zenin's 2 words. The breath also began to sway constantly. His phantoms seemed to be constantly emerging around him. The 2-handed mustaches moved without wind, and their long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and what was hidden in them was a deep killing intent. Number 1 took a few deep breaths, then let out a cold snort, backed up a few steps, and showed her attitude. Feeling the breath of Zenin Jipi in front of him, number 1's body couldn't help but feel a little stiff. Is it? That's good. Actually, I'm an errand guy today. My patriarch really doesn't have any cards, Zenin Niobe said as if complaining, and then looked at number 1's eyes seriously. Said word by word. I didn't mean to shoot him. After experiencing a strong psychological struggle, the tone still softened. Zenin Niobe's voice was not loud, but each one fell clearly in number 1's ear. What he really feared was the hidden power behind Zenin's house. Ryuichi doesn't care about the dog-licking family, but no matter how powerful it is, it can't ignore the Zenin family, which has been condescending and overlooking sentient beings since eternity. The current Jujutsu Association is not yet ready for a real battle with big 3 sorcerer families. Zenin's house, I will tell you what war is called. P.S. Today's simple 10 changes all at once, I hope you all see it cool. Love you guys. That power that kept the Zenin family from falling for 1,000 years. My parents always ask me to tell everyone, no matter what Zenin Ryuichi's attitude towards the Zenin family is, he always keeps Zenin's blood. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. He wasn't afraid of Zenin Naomi, even if Zenin Naomi was known as the strongest existence in the first class, it still wasn't enough in his eyes. His eyes are like rivers floating in mud and sand, constantly rippling. Not in time. Still not in time, because of Rukawa's door and Zenin's family, I can't commit it. Life and death among peers does not matter, of course, but if there is any force that dares to bully the small with the big and the small with more, it doesn't matter. Chapter 121. Advertisement. The Covenant of 100 Families, you should know better than me. A family can hold 3 doors at most. Your Zenin family has made an exception to have 4 doors. You really want to risk the world's great disgrace. 5 seats. We can't help you worry about things in Zenin's house. Okay. Zenin Niobe will remember what you said today, I hope that in the future, you will not regret it. Sorry, I regret that these 2 words never appeared in my dictionary. Huh. Number 1 snorted coldly, exerting force under her feet in vain, and the powerful curse burst instantly, like a red meteor, rising up into the sky again, and disappearing into Ryuichi's line of sight in an instant. Ryuichi has his own clear judgment. Even if I can beat number 1, I need to pay a big price. So he didn't say anything, but he had a faint hunch that he would see him again soon. And, soon. Nosy. Ryuichi picked up the stone Buddha and observed it carefully. He just glanced at it casually before, but he didn't see anything. But at the moment, looking carefully, Ryuichi actually saw the mysterious meaning in the cracks on the stone Buddha. It seems that even the broken body of the Buddha is completely natural and transparent. If you don't perceive it carefully, you can't notice how terrible curse is hidden behind this stone Buddha. I'm an errand runner. I can't help it, Zenin Niobe shrugged helplessly, not caring about Ryuichi's attitude. And Ryuichi didn't bother to say more to him. Play with the stone Buddha on his hand. Sheer on the side had disappeared without a trace when Zenin Jipi appeared, and it seemed that he didn't want to see this Zenin patriarch. The door is not only a seal, but also a secret that has allowed Baijia to pass on to this day. Curse sealed in the door, his jujutsu will affect the curse power. For a long time to condense the curse power within the range of the door, there is a chance to engrave curse's jujutsu in the bloodline. For example, the family tradition of the Rushuan family was inscribed from this stone Buddha burial gate. When Ryuichi heard this, he knew that his previous guess was correct. Even the door that has been sealed for 1,000 years should not have curse power on it. But, if someone keeps condensing the curse power on it from generation to generation, then the situation is completely different. Thousands of years of nourishment have actually brought a tyrannical curse on the outer layer of the seal. Does the jujutsu of Baijia come from this way? Ryuichi murmured in a low voice. It seems to ask Zenin Niobe again, and it seems to ask himself again. Hey, human selfishness has never been more compassionate than cursed spirit. You should know this better than me. Bang. Advertisement. The voice hasn't fallen yet. There was a violent shaking on the ground. Ryuichi was like a bad Ryuichi, and appeared in front of Zenin Naobi with terrifying power. His left hand clenched a fist, only less than half an inch away from Zenin Naobi's face. Rumble. Titicaca. Behind Zenin Zebiran, because of the powerful fist wind, a terrifying sonic boom was produced, and the surrounding space was constantly rippling, and between the flashes of space, countless black thunders continued to explode. Do you want to die? Ryuichi's voice seemed to be squeezed out of his teeth, and his eyes were completely submerged in scarlet at this moment. At this moment, it was as if the demons had come back from hell and revived in the world again. The terrifying killing intent seemed to be condensed into substance, like a river of blood that constantly swallowed everything. Ryuichi's voice sounded like a demon babbling, faintly ringing in Zenin's ears. ZZZ. The curse power kept twisting around his fist. There was also a dead gray on Zenin Naobi's face, but it quickly disappeared, as if the expression had never appeared. She doesn't want to see you like this. Roll. Rumble. Along with Ryuichi's roar, an invisible shock burst out instantly centered on Ryuichi. Empty. The ground seemed to be swept by an extremely sharp blade. Completely become even. Karaka. Click. Both the walls and the gates collapsed completely in an instant and returned to nothingness. Zenin Naobi looked at Ryuichi in front of him hesitantly, and finally shook his head helplessly, with a look of loneliness. Seeking flowers. He only heard a swish, and his figure disappeared in front of Ryuichi's eyes in an instant. Click. Woo. Countless black souls roared behind Ryuichi, a blood moon like breaking through the endless sky, swallowing everything. The faint blue blooms, and all the objects are rippling with the magic and the sky, as if Ryuichi has become the co-master of all. In front of him, the destruction suddenly rose up, as if it could assimilate all the power. Advertisement. The three stunts broke out without concealment. In an instant, the world seemed to change color. At this moment, Ryuichi's eyes became as red as blood. Divine power is like prison. God's grace is like the sea. Titicaca. The space began to twist slightly, and a few black gaps appeared in the torn-apart space. 0. In a trance. In front of Ryuichi's eyes, a little girl who carved Yutaru in pink appeared in front of him. She kept Ryuichi's thighs obediently, staring at a pair of big shui lingling eyes, with a little baby fat on her cute little face. She wrinkled her little nose and stuck out her tongue naughty towards Ryuichi. Elder brother. Titicaca. The blood in Ryuichi's eyes began to quickly dissipate, and the visions around him also faded. It's like everything has never appeared. Zenin, you had better do what you promised me, otherwise. Only the mansion that was completely flattened seemed to be telling what kind of horrible experience had happened here. Hee hee. The breeze blows, and the former courtyard has long been in ruins. Looming. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. And Ryuichi seemed to disappear into the courtyard with the clear breeze. Even the air seemed to stagnate for an instant. Wow. Ryuichi's voice became weaker and weaker. After a long time, the figure gradually began to be illusory, like a phantom that did not exist in reality. A cold laugh came from his mouth. Falling on his corpse, he babbled bit by bit. Earth. It seems to be attracted by the dead Rushwanga. A pitch-black crow in the sky fluttered its wings and appeared in this, clearing ground. Otherwise. Chapter 122. Advertisement. Sudden. Snapped. Lu Xuanya, who had already landed his head, grabbed the poor crow. It crushed its body fiercely, and in the end the crow didn't even let out a mournful cry. Really fragile times. A faintly sullen voice sounded like a demon resurrected. A**hole. They dare to treat me like this. Among the highest meeting rooms of the Jujutsu Association. One vented his anger on the surrounding walls. He didn't use the curse power, but with his own flesh he punched the kryptonite, which is known as the hardest in the world, into a deep hole. In the small shriveled body, there is a terrifying power. This action Jujutsu Association can be said to be a complete failure. Not only did he not win Gate 413, he also lost a great master. Although the death of number 3 was in his expectation, it was indeed based on the premise of being able to snatch the door. The position under his butt is still in this position. I don't know how many people are staring at it. Just waiting for oneself to relax, there will be a group of greedy hungry wolves swarming up. If the door can be successfully won this time, even if the number 3 who has been antagonistic to himself is broken into pieces, no one will say anything. But now, the entire Jujutsu Association has become undercurrents. He really didn't care about the position of the so-called No. 1 acting president. But some things can only be done in this position, and can only be done in this position. Zenin Ryuichi. Zenin Ryuichi. The voice of number 1 was extremely bitter, and his eyes were bloodshot constantly red because of his anger. Click. The roots of his teeth clenched and made a crisp sound. If there is no Zenin Ryuichi, the door must be my own. The current number 1 seems to have forgotten. If it weren't for Zenin Ryuichi's killing of the Rukawa family, he might not even have the chance to see Gate. But now he was completely overwhelmed by anger and shame. If it hadn't been for years of cultivating energy, the Rukawa family would have fallen into madness long ago. Hundreds of schools. Hundreds of schools. You guys who have withdrawn from the stage for a long time, why do they still exist? Just when number 1 vented his dissatisfaction loudly. A cold voice sounded slowly behind him. You also think that those guys are getting in the way, right? Who? The face that had been distorted because of anger just now quickly returned to the calmness of the past. Advertisement. The curse power quickly wrapped around his body, and his toes touched the ground. Body shifting. Who are you? Number 1 looked at the ghostly man in the room. Questioned. He had some impressions of the person in front of him. He seemed to be a captain of a Jujutsu association, but this person is definitely not the one he used to be. Just the black curse power floating on his body made number 1 feel a strong sense of crisis. Oh, I can't fool you, really, I thought I was teasing you. Beard scratched his head somewhat boringly. Then under the gaze of number 1. A big blood-red hand came out from the side of the beard's head with a tearing sound off timela. The blood suddenly fell to the ground. But what was even more strange was that the blood coagulated quickly before completely waiting for Luodu, forming a solid blood clot, which rolled on the ground a few times. Cursed spirit. Number 1's heart trembled suddenly, with the intelligence that can match the enemies, and even the cursed spirit, who knows how to hide, is definitely a super cursed spirit. His hands were quickly placed on his chest, his fingers were slightly erected, and his 3 fingers were hanging upside down. Waves of curse power emerged behind him. Red instantly became the only color in the room. It is like a bright curtain covering everything. The surroundings began to change constantly, like a canvas, following number 1's sight, dancing wantonly. Don't be nervous, I'm not here for trouble. I'm here to work with you. On the big bloody hand, a hole was cracked out of thin air. A strange mouth appeared on it. The voice is hoarse and sluggish. Cooperation. You made a mistake, cursed spirit, don't be embarrassed here. Although I don't know why you dare to appear in the Jujutsu Association, but it doesn't matter, I am so angry now. The car is cracked. No. One is no nonsense, and his hands are sealed again. The surrounding space began to turbulence. The curse power condenses instantly. A huge chariot suddenly appeared in front of him. With a terrifying force, thinking of the beard madly crushing the past. Facing the powerful chariot that seems to be able to crush everything. The mouth above the big bloody hand showed a helpless smile. Advertisement. Humans, are you as impatient as you? Bang. At the moment when the chariot was about to completely crush him down. The big scarlet hand danced casually. Wow, a weird sound sounded, and the chariot began to twist quickly. In the end, it twisted and curled into a ball less than the size of a palm, and fell to the ground. Don't you want to kill Zenin Ryuichi? As soon as this sentence came out, number 1's hand still stagnated in Jayan. What did you say? It seems that you finally understand that my goal is Zenin Ryuichi just like you. So do you want to cooperate? The big scarlet hand swayed slightly. The mouth instantly twisted and deformed, turning into a bloodshot eye, staring tightly at number 1's body. Go ahead. What do you want? Number 1 didn't even think about it, and his resentment for Ryuichi had already surpassed his obsession with cursed spirit. As long as the goal can be achieved, even if it cooperates with cursed spirit, it is not a bad idea. Ha ha ha, I know, you guys are really interesting. It's totally different from those stupid guys who have one bite of one human being and one bite of belief. The beard let out a burst of bold laughter, and then the voice transferred to the big bloody hand on the side of his head again. I want to know, one of the 100 families, the whereabouts of the Miyamoto family. I have been looking for them for a long time, as long as I can find Miyamoto's house, Zenin Ryuichi will help you solve it. Number 1's eyes swayed slightly, which made him believe that the words of a cursed spirit that had just appeared were simply the best in the world. A dead sea rippled continuously in his eyes. Why should I believe you? Why? Right, why? The big scarlet hand seemed to be asking himself. The tone is suspicious and naive. Finally, the beard he was boarding showed a strange smile. As cursed spirits meet delicious. Rumble. This sentence sounded like thunder in number 1's ear. His body trembled slightly, and he raised a finger tremblingly. You are. Shish. Luo Kai who appeared in front of him at some point, and put a finger on number 1's mouth. The darkness came as expected. Chapter 123. Advertisement. Da da da. A burst of very regular percussion sounded in the room. Ryuichi's slender index finger kept tapping on the table. It actually carries a somewhat inexplicable music theory. On the desktop, a small stone Buddha sculpture is quietly placed in a corner. Ryuichi's gaze, staring slightly at this seemingly unremarkable, but in fact, amazing open black lens bracket door close black lens bracket. He didn't want to try to condense the curse power on the gate. After all, he had also learned the Jujutsu from Rukawa family. Not to mention that compared with the self-strengthened by 6 Immortal Thief Treasury, even if it is far away from sheer. Not as good as. 8 stunts are the strongest. This thought has never changed in Ryuichi's mind. The reason why he was so interested in a stone Buddha was entirely thinking about a feasibility. A feasibility to improve the progress of Dispatch of Detained Spirits. If you can curse the horror curse that has been sealed in the door for thousands of years, then maybe the progress of your Dispatch of Detained Spirits can be greatly increased. With the appearance of number 23 and number 1, and the truth of gate was placed in front of him. An idea of wanting to become stronger quickly appeared in Ryuichi's mind. Only strength is the standard to measure everything. This world is far less shallow than in the comic world. Least, only relying on the real person, Hubao, those special cursed spirits, it is impossible to do whatever they want in this world. The most important thing right now is to quickly improve one's strength. Although the old miscellaneous Mao number 1 hides his newly revealed killing intent very well, how can he escape Ryuichi's intuition that is almost equivalent to foresight? A guy who is thinking about killing himself day and night. Ryuichi is totally unacceptable. He grabbed the black stone Buddha. Hold it tightly in his hand. In a flash, a treacherous breath rose instantly. Hoo-hoo. The surroundings of the room seemed to have entered a whole new world in an instant. Everything above the space gradually began to appear spots of different sizes. Does the spot carry a black vortex, changing alternately? The air is flowing backwards quickly in this space. Titicaca. Advertisement. Then, the countless spots disappeared quickly. The darkness became the main theme of everything in an instant. Ryuichi's consciousness kept sinking under his control. The stone Buddha emits bursts of fluorescence. The light is not as shallow as the light that is usually glimpsed, but hides some crazily extreme beliefs. In this breath, everything is nothingness, imaginary, and has no interest or meaning. It seems that countless lives are withering at the same time and blooming at the same time. Ryuichi sat cross-legged in this endless cycle of life and death, expressionless, like the dome of Mount Tarzan. Next moment, everything is reclusive again. It seems that those weird scenes have never appeared. But Ryuichi clearly knows that his own consciousness at this moment has already entered the door. Before his eyes, a pitch-black and huge iron gate stood quietly, as if for thousands of years, no matter the time dynasty changes, the world changes, it still exists, and there has not been a slight change. There are countless carvings on the black iron door. The carvings on it are no longer true, but what will never change is the ancient and wild world. This is the world of gate. Ryuichi unhurriedly stretched out a hand and slowly pressed it against the huge iron gate. Crunch. The huge iron gate has no weight at all. As soon as he touched the palm of his hand, the door seemed to open by itself impatiently. The curse power here is more than 3 times that of the outside world. The soul is equivalent to the body. Under the rules of this world, even if Ryuichi's consciousness soul entered the door, 6 Immortal Thief Treasury continued to operate. So he was keenly aware of how strong the curse was here. In this space, there was an extremely tyrannical curse aura constantly exuding. As conspicuous as a lighthouse in the eternal night. Feel the horrible breath. Ryuichi's eyes are also rare and cautious. Earlier, an anonymous document was sent, which detailed everything about door. Even if I thought about it with my butt, I knew who sent it. Ryuichi's current behavior is called Jin door. Advertisement. It is a way to sink the consciousness soul into the door and enter the door to visualize that curse, which can better increase the influence on the engraving of the curse that he exudes. Of course, Ryuichi didn't come for jujutsu. He entered this gate this time with the purpose to feel for himself this terrifying cursed spirit that has been passed down since ancient times. What kind of terrible strength does it have? In addition, let's see if you can confine yourself to the level of Dispatch of Detained Spirits. Getting started is a very dangerous thing, because the soul is a very fragile existence, although this world has the rule that the soul is equal to the body. But, except for a small number of freaks, the souls that were stripped from the flesh were almost unresistible. But Ryuichi has no worries in this regard. Because 6 Immortal Thief Treasury not only nourished his body, but also nourished his soul at the same time. Before you know it, his soul resilience has reached the peak of this world. Therefore, he hardly had any accidents at the time of getting started. To support such a large illusory world, the curse power required is simply unimaginable, and it actually lasted for 1,000 years. Interesting. Ryuichi walked in the dark passage, following the breath of curse, slowly advancing. Everything around is made up of curse power. It's like a realm that has been infinitely lasting for time. If it's really a domain. Ryuichi whispered softly. The mantra structure here is almost exactly the same as the domain structure. However, even if it is a genius who can master the domain, releasing the domain 3 times a day is already the limit among the limits. Except for the freak of Gojo Satoru, who can release the domain nearly 10 times a day, Ryuichi has never encountered the concentration of curse power that can support domain expansion more than 10 times. But the current door inner world seems to be a stable field for thousands of years. The idea was so ridiculous that Ryuichi turned around and left it behind. Through the dark promenade, countless black ribbons intertwined, envelop the entire space. The powerful curse will cover everything. In the middle of all ribbons, a weird head was firmly imprisoned by the ribbon, and it stared at Ryuichi with curious eyes. Human, pray to me. Chapter 124. Advertisement. The voice of nothingness was a bit hollow, like the whispers of some indescribable scary monster from among the black ribbons. Zzz. A thick noise began to ring in Ryuichi's ears. People couldn't help but feel a little anxious in their hearts. But Ryuichi's Xingxing has already reached the apex of this world. In terms of Xingxing alone, even if the truth of this world is completely opened, he is confident that he is on the top of the countless peaks. These noises fell in his ears, without the slightest emotion, like a mud cow entering the sea. Such a scene. It seemed to surprise the weird head in the ribbon. Its black pupils widened, without the slightest focus in their eyes, but they were scattered like a person who had been dead for a long time, without any look. Human, you are not from the Rukawa family. Could it be said? Can it be said that? As that idiot family finally destroyed. Ha 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 ha. He laughed wildly as if mad, his face almost divided into two parts with his big exaggerated mouth. As he laughed wildly, the black ribbon that had imprisoned him became tighter. Almost completely invaded his body. Looking at the cursed spirit like a madman in front of me. Ryuichi seems to be looking at an ancient exhibit, with his hands on his chest, his eyes are looking up and down, there is no emotional fluctuation due to this weird cursed spirit. Cursed spirit, which has almost no gap with human wisdom, and even if the whole body is sealed, does it show its grace? It is far from that. Nightmare, can compare. Is this the existence of the ancient seal to this day? With my current dispatch of detained spirits, there is no way to completely restrain it. It seems that I have to wait. When Ryuichi saw this cursed spirit, he knew that this guy in front of him, with the recent progress of Dispatch of Detained Spirits, has no chance of being able to successfully restrain the spirit. Dispatch of Detained Spirits can restrain all spirits, but at the moment the intensity of this cursed spirit far exceeds the upper limit he can bear now. Although his breath was sealed by those dense black ribbons, Ryuichi could see countless evil thoughts in his body. The evil thoughts were far more powerful than the super cursed spirit, which was born in humans and feared the truth. The strong to the extreme malice, hovering continuously behind the cursed spirit, like a dark demon phantom, opened his blood basin and wanted to swallow everything. The Rukawa family has indeed been destroyed. Ryuichi looked at him indifferently, although he couldn't catch the spirit. However, this guy who has existed for thousands of years should be able to draw out some truths from that year. Naturally, what he said to him on the first could not be complete. Advertisement. The only option is to hold the right to the truth in your own hands. Ha 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 ha. Good job. Boy, you are a jujutsu teacher. As long as you serve this god, I will be able to bestow endless power, the power to step on everything under my feet. Whether it is a right or a woman, the god can satisfy you. Any desire, any request, the original god can do it. The super cursed spirit stared at Ryuichi's body, and a drop of invisible crystal flashed across the corner of his mouth. He has not eaten his favorite, two-legged sheep for thousands of years. Boy, sink into your desires, and then become my uncle's food. He looked at Ryuichi, and a dim light flashed in his eyes. The surrounding scenes changed drastically in an instant. The originally dark enchantment. It has become a magnificent palace, the majestic and magnificent building exudes bursts of light. Valuable gems were randomly thrown on the ground, and the entire wall was covered with precious murals handwritten by famous artists. A brilliant road was inlaid with diamonds on the ground. On the blood-colored red carpet, countless pearls gathered into a big ball. Everything in the entire palace is made of gold, and Ryuichi stands in the middle of the palace, as if everything is within reach, as long as he agrees. This magnificent one has become his collection. As long as you nod, all of this is you. It's all yours. The voice of the cursed spirit was full of temptation, and countless women with hot bodies appeared around Ryuichi, showing their beauty to their heart's content. A pair of fascinating eyes swept across Ryuichi, with indescribable amorous feelings. As long as you nod, it's all yours. You just need to nod your head. Come on. The voice rang in Ryuichi's ear over and over again. But he seemed to completely ignore that voice. He smiled and looked at the coquettish women around, but there was no lust in his eyes, but as clear as a child. Advertisement. Diaresis, there is a guy called Yachi Orochi. I said the same thing to me, but now. A meaningful smile came from the corner of Ryuichi's mouth. The palms were slowly raised. The black Yongyi quickly appeared in his hand. Circling under condensation, a small, eight-headed monster snake appeared between his palms. Bloody, gold and iron, sand and gravel, cruel. Numerous sequences slowly emerged all around. Baki Orochi. Click. Eight-headed snakes often exist, but the eight-headed snake has only been there since ancient times, and it is one of the oldest fears of mankind. Ryuichi calmly looked at everything that was constantly twisting in front of him. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Impossible. The Yachi Orochi and the group of guys are now sealed, even if the seal is broken, what kind of posture it is now. With a scream of cursed spirit, the surrounding scenes began to collapse rapidly. This scene almost broke the cursed spirit. Is it really the tyrant Baki who devours heaven and earth, Wanlishahe? The tall building collapsed, and the beauty was withered. All this faded like moying crazily. If it weren't for the smell of the Ochi that he would never forget, he would almost think that the Ochi was just a strange snake with 8 heads. Tyrant, Yuan Luji. The small Baki Big Mei Jiao snake in his hand hovered quietly on his palm, like an obedient pet snake. Huge black eyes, staring at the figure of Yaki Orochi. Woohoo! As the cursed spirit, an extremely humane fear did appear in his eyes. Although it was only a moment, it still fell into Ryuichi's eyes. Black made a comeback again, instantly becoming the only dominant color in this space. Who are you? Rumble. Chapter 125. Advertisement. Looking at the big snake like a pet, he knew that the boy in front of him was definitely not as simple as it seemed. He knew the techniques of cursed spirit that could be manipulated, but the Onmyoji who tried to conquer the Yachi Orochi had become its bones. But now, this Yaki Orochi, who seemed to have lost his intelligence, was clearly under complete control. It seems that the seals over the years have really slowed him down. Looking at the appearance of the super cursed spirit, Ryuichi knew in his heart that the guy in front of him did not realize that the Yaki Orochi at this moment was incomplete. A plan emerged in his mind. A smile appeared at the corner of Ryuichi's mouth. He casually played with Yaki Orochi in his hands, his tone was still so lazy, but in the eyes of the already very vigilant cursed spirit, it really became a bit unpredictable. Under the seal for thousands of years, his perception of curse power has almost dropped to a freezing point. So he can't judge Ryuichi's strength. But looking at the Yaki Orochi in the opponent's hand, you know that the opponent is probably not easy to provoke. Damn it, is my estimation wrong? The rubbish of Rukawa's family misled me. There are such terrifying humans in this era. Cursed spirit secretly cursed in his heart. Before asking others questions, shouldn't you talk about yourself first? While talking, a wisteria rocking chair appeared behind Ryuichi, and he slowly rose. He held the Yaki Orochi and slumped in the rocking chair, his tone a little arrogant. The more he was like this, the more cursed spirit felt that he was unfathomable. For thousands of years, Jujutsu masters who have entered here do not know how many, but without exception, they have fear or resentment when facing themselves. Although his perception of curse power fell to the lowest level, but the cursed spirit, born out of countless emotions, is the most sensitive existence to emotions. The boy lying in the rocking chair in front of him, from appearing to the present, there hasn't been any emotional fluctuations from beginning to end. This kind of feeling, as long as it has been felt in that era. I have felt it in the group of lunatics who laugh loudly even if they die. You can call me, become a god. Be attached to me and give you eternal life. The voice of cursed spirit paused, and the black eyes exuded a terrifying halo. Advertisement. The ribbons wrapped up and down all over his body were filled with indescribable darkness. His huge, twisted head was somewhat inconsistent with solemnity. Become a god. Ryuichi quickly searched for the name in his mind. In the end, I only remembered that I had seen this name in an isolated book, and I had seen it in a lonely book that recorded various types of hibiscus history. Who are you? I'm just a boring little boss, not as big as your name. Ordinary boss, hee. In this era, a human trader will actually have jujutsu who can master the Yaki Orochi. Do you really treat me as a fool? Cursed spirit only felt that he was played by Ryuichi. He roared frantically, and the ribbon behind him was constantly tightened, disintegrating his body into chi. Don't be so excited, I'm just telling the truth. Seeing the crazy god of rapport, he shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Has anyone believed the truth these days? Human, are you irritating me? Are you lying to a god? When will cursed spirit become a god? Ryuichi wiggled his fingers, and the black yongyi kept appearing on his palm. Quietly reclusive. Zizi. The power of Dispatch of Detained Spirits is mobilized, trying to invade everything around. This is. Ryuichi's heart was startled, but his face remained unchanged. Because he discovered that the force of the spirits had entered the body of the god of affinity. It seems that the mud is turning, although it is slight, but it can be faintly manipulated. In other words, although he can't directly and thoroughly master this self-proclaimed god, he can be completely restrained by imperceptibly. As for all of this, the god of marriage seems to be unaware of it. Still waiting for those huge and terrifying eyes, Cece looked at Ryuichi steadily. Okay, that's it, we will ask each other a question alone. I think even if cursed spirit has been sealed for so long, there will still be problems in our minds. Advertisement. Mortal, do you want to deal with God? Forget it, I don't care. Seeing the attitude of the god of karma, Ryuichi turned around and wanted to exit the door. Wait a moment, I happen to be bored, you can talk about it. Seeing that Ryuichi really wants to leave, I feel a little anxious. Ryuichi hurriedly stopped. There was a smile on Ryuichi's mouth where he didn't see it. You are curse-born from all sides. I was born in the fear and desire of all your human desires. The god of formation spoke without hesitation, and then continued. That dirty guy, Itadori Yuji's second stunner eats Ryōmen Sukuna's finger before the world's reincarnation begins. The flesh and blood of a human cub is simply the greatest delicacy in the world, and he can't help drooling every time. Hundreds. A bunch of clowns, except for Gojo, Zenin, Kamo, what is the difference between the remaining guys and maggots? So, in the Jujutsu world, is that guy Seimei still alive? A few sparkles appeared at the corners of the mouths that worshipped the god of formation. I don't know who Kingming you are talking about, but Tianyuan, you should know that he is still alive. After rubbing his chin, he continued to ask. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Ryuichi was stunned when he heard this. The guy who can be remembered by the god of karma would have been thousands of years old if he lived to this day. As that guy Ryōmen Sukuna revived, the friendship god groaned for a while, and said. The god of affinity seems to be very disdainful of Tianyuan, and his tone is also somewhat contemptuous. If it hadn't been for the appearance of that guy, the original god should still enjoy the sacrifice of human beings aloft. At present, the oldest known Jujutsu teacher in the Jujutsu world is the Tianyuan with the Immortal Jujutsu. Who sealed you back then? Is it really 100 schools? No, Ryuichi really didn't lie at this point. After all, according to the timeline, when Ryōmen Sukuna gets the meat, it should be 2 years later. Ryuichi has nothing to do with Tianyuan, and naturally doesn't care about the attitude of the god of friendship to that guy. Isn't there a recovery? It seems that guy is not as great as Big Brother said, the karma god murmured. Chapter 126. Advertisement. But when these words fell in Ryuichi's ears, it was a different taste. What kind of existence can be called Big Brother by a cursed spirit that has been sealed for thousands of years? Originally, I wanted to put out some words casually, but now I didn't expect to hang out such a big fish. Who is the eldest brother in your mouth? Ryuichi didn't hesitate to ask what he was thinking. The guy called Big Brother, by such a powerful guy, even with his indifferent disposition, couldn't help but become a little curious. The god of karma looked at Ryuichi with a strange look in his eyes. He twitched his nose very humanely, and his huge mouth split towards Ryōmen, revealing jagged fangs. Click. Zzz. The space behind him began to tremble constantly, and the countless black ribbons drove the terrifying curse power, frantically pulling the body of the god of marriage. It was as if a peerless beast was about to break its seal, making a comeback. Ha 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 ha. Human, do you really want to know his name? That's a taboo, the only existence submerged by time. Even Yaki Orochi is just a harmless bug in front of him, and he doesn't even have the right to crawl. His name exists as a kind of nightmare. The voice of becoming a god is hoarse and hollow, and the haze that penetrates the bottom of the heart in the words is constantly breeding this. In his huge eyes, countless greedy desires reincarnated in them. Ryuichi was reflected in his eyes, the figure who was still lazy. It seems that even if the sky and the earth are hanging upside down, the sun and the moon are repeated, it can't make this young man feel the slightest move. Who is your brother? Ryuichi didn't say much, and repeated the question just now, but this time, there was a bit of golden iron in his voice. Humans, you are good. For so many years, I don't know how many humans I have seen. You are the only one who makes me feel threatened. The madness on the face of the god of marriage is all reclusive at this moment, it seems that everything before is disguised by him. He looked at Ryuichi, as if he saw the mountain Zung Jin crushed on the hearts of all creatures cursed spirit. The same pretentiousness, the same contentment. He seemed to have cut off countless time and space, and once again saw the true face of that existence. Obviously it was a creature born in negative emotions, but his face was a little moved. He came from the real horror, and the only nightmare for mankind. As long as this world still exists, he is the only one who is eternal and above everything else. Even, all the sources of curse come from his baptism. His name is advertisement. At the moment when the god of friendship is about to say that name. Click. The surrounding space began to surge wildly. Gate the endless power of Jujutsu began to shrink quickly. This piece of space is independent of everything. A great thrust was produced. Almost instantaneously. Ryuichi's consciousness was completely pushed out by that power. Bang bang bang. Kaka. A burst of rapid voice sounded. In this space, countless black gates were born out of thin air, layer upon layer. The surroundings of the god of marriage were once again completely imprisoned. Pure black once again enveloped everything, as if a certain rule triggered it. Bang bang bang. The door closed everything, and the black ribbon shrank crazily. A grinning smile appeared at the corner of the god of marriage. There was a bit of excitement in the strange eyes. It won't be long. Ha ha ha. It won't take long. His voice became weaker and weaker, and finally completely calmed in nothingness. Dot 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 dot. Ryuichi's consciousness quickly returned to his body, and the stone Buddha in his hand became dim again, and even the mysterious lines on his body lost its previous charm. It seems to have completely become an ordinary jewelry. Getting started, there is a time limit. When the soul enters the door, it can only stay for 10 minutes at most. This is a rule that was established thousands of years ago. Ryuichi also tried to use Divine Armament 100 refinements to temper the stone Buddha again. However, the material of the helpless stone Buddha can no longer bear any tempering. Even Divine Armament 100 refinements, the most ordinary Earth Lotus technique, would completely ruin him. It's a pity, it's almost Ryuichi put the stone Buddha aside, although he didn't ask what the so-called eldest brother was seeking flowers. But, this time, getting started is also considered a lot of gains. Advertisement. E.g. a faint pink halo rose up between Ryuichi's. In that halo, there seemed to be the most primitive desire of mankind. Money, power, wealth. There is constant reincarnation in it. If the mind is not strong, even the soul will be sucked into it when seeing this halo, completely falling into this fictional heaven. Although there is no complete Gu Ling to connect with the gods, the Gu Ling power that Ryuichi penetrated into his body has already played a role. There is endless desire in his curse. Ryuichi nodded in satisfaction. In the battle, even if the opponent can be distracted for a second, it is enough to set the tone of a battle. What's more, the power of desire can be used in more than one way. Haruaki, Ryōmen Sukuna, Big Brother, the mysterious sealer. This world seems to be getting more and more fun, Ryuichi murmured softly while looking at the well-behaved Yakiorochi in his hand. Then the palm of his hand was turned over, and Yakiorochi disappeared from his hand. Number. Become a god. Although it is somewhat abstract, it is indeed somewhat similar to the god of marriage. Earth. For a long while, he turned around and came to the front of the bookshelf, and based on his previous memory, he found the lonely unofficial history that had been somewhat broken. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. It reads impressively on it. The two thick arms grew out of the hair for some reason. Big eyes, big mouth, full of sharp teeth. There is a god in the mountain, who was born after making a wish, and became attached to people, perfecting people's dreams. That terrifying big head, grinning in the air, devoured 9 helpless children, and then gave those trivial illusions that could no longer be called humans for the sake of desire. I opened the book and carefully began to search for the record of becoming a god. On the 7th day of every month, the blood eats the 9 sons, no, destroy the village and massacre the city. This short text really made Ryuichi seem to see it. The turning paper stopped on a yellowed page of writing. Ryuichi scanned the page. The tip of the hand moved, and the dust was instantly annihilated. Above it is a monster with a huge head, with countless hairs all over his body, and no body. Chapter 127. Advertisement. Being connected with God, that's how it is. Born in the fear and yearning of human beings for the upper class. During the Warring States period, that kind of curse would flow out of almost all civilians. And what is bred from it is the god of friendship. Long also discovered a question worth pondering, that is. Befriending a god can easily devour mankind at will. But it just wants to make that kind of behavior that looks like a sacrifice. It is far from the cursed spirit, which treats humans as small snacks in the current society. I don't know if this is his evil taste, or there are some secrets that I don't know. No hurry, it will be more and more in the future. Ryuichi has a faint feeling that with his appearance, the world has changed unimaginably. The cursed spirit that has existed since thousands of years ago will definitely meet again soon. And then 4 to 7. Maybe, his dispatch of detained spirits will become the gods and completely restrain the spirits. And those powerful cursed spirits that seem terrifying to outsiders are nothing but a string of cold numbers on the dispatch of detained spirits progress bar in Ryuichi's eyes. The most important thing right now is to improve the progress of dispatch of detained spirits. Only dispatch of detained spirits can give full play to its power. Regardless of the domain, or the ability to stick to the spirit, it can be truly manifested. Like opening the system. In front of Ryuichi's eyes, a light blue mechanical panel that only he could see appeared in front of him. Divine Armament 100 refinements. Satisfactory current progress is 100%. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. Beginner, 100% current progress. Dispatch of detained spirits. Xiaocheng 40% of the current progress. Feng Hu Chi Men. Unlocked. Full Hand. Not unlocked. Tong Tian Talisman. Unlocked. Deluo Cave Temple. Unlocked. Origin of Qi. Unlocked. Although Ryuichi is only confined to a small part of the power of becoming a god. But it did make the progress bar go up by 3%. You know, even the super cursed spirit temptress is only 5%. Advertisement. If you can completely connect the gods to the spirits and gather the seal of the Yakiorochi, then it may be possible to make your progress directly above 90. But now there is a problem. Only the special grade is eligible to provide progress for Ryuichi. Hey, Hubao, where are you? You should have been born at this time. Ryuichi suddenly thought of the unlucky special cursed spirit in the original book, the human fear of volcanoes. The cursed spirit created by humans, although strong, is far from being worthy of the level of natural disasters. First, the head was grabbed by the future Gojo Satoru, and then Ryōmen Sukuna was directly smashed to pieces. If he was really the first fear of natural disasters, it would be too lax. Therefore, Ryuichi believes that the guy who leaks the coral should be a cursed spirit that was born soon, and it will not be more than 100 years old at best. But now according to time, it should be born, and if it can connect the 4 of them together, it can also increase a lot of progress. However, These guys have been hiding in the realm, and they are nowhere to be found. Whoosh. Just as Ryuichi thought, a sound of breaking through the sky sounded. At the window sill, as if a meteor fell, the black shadow rushed towards Ryuichi. With the power of horror, seems to want to penetrate everything in general. Ryuichi didn't even look there, but raised his left hand at random and stretched it out gently. Pong. Click. The shadow was like falling into a spider web and getting trapped, unable to move. A burst of green smoke rose. It turned out to be a jar of strawberry-flavored juice. Oh, long time no see, Ryuichi. A crisp young voice rang in Ryuichi's ear. With a bit of sunshine of a young man, and a bit of indescribable frivolity. On the window sill, a white-haired young man with sunglasses and a piece of cheesecake in his hand waved his hand with a smile. Ignoring Ryuichi's big eyes rolled up. It looks like my room has a door. Do you really have to come out like this every time you come over? Ryuichi rubbed his eyebrows a few times, showing a slight headache. Hey, being so indifferent, I just came to have fun after the retreat. You are really chilling like this. The boy covered his heart and made a heartache in a pretending manner. This person is the next generation of the Gojo family, the future, invincible, in this world. Gojo Satoru. Advertisement. Obviously he has the beauty of crushing all the artists in Fusang, but he twists his body like a naive person, deliberately disgusting Ryuichi. FK off, you. Although Ryuichi said that, but it's rare to have a smile. Although this guy is a bit mixed, he is one of his few friends after all. There is an inevitable similarity between people who can become friends. The basis for being able to play together is that the two have equal status. Otherwise, whether it is high or low, the gap between the two will become larger and larger, and eventually disappear completely. Ryuichi knew this early, so these two personalities are completely different, and there are even some opposite guys who have become friends. Because both of them know it. Exhausting everything in the world, the one standing proudly on the top of the world must have his own figure in the end. Hee. Gojo Satoru chuckled, leaning against the window sill with Erlang's legs upright. Looked up and down at Ryuichi a few times. I heard someone say that you have been in big trouble recently. How about, do you want to help? It's not a big trouble, it's just a trivial matter. Ryuichi opened the seal of the juice and took a sip. Gojo Satoru took off his sunglasses, looked at Ryuichi with those incomparably magnificent eyes, and said with interest. The Rukawa family, one of the 100 schools, was wiped out. Was this kind of thing called a trivial matter? You really have you. Ryuichi shrugged his shoulders indifferently, and threw the stone Buddha on the table to Gojo Satoru casually, as if he had lost some worthless toy. Click. The stone Buddha half an inch in front of Gojo Satoru was confined in place by some kind of powerful force, unable to move forward. He reached out, took the stone Buddha in his hand, and exclaimed. This is the door. The elders in the family don't let me keep this thing to play, so I can't see the things in my own house. You dignified Gojo's next patriarch, there are places where you can't go. Ryuichi said jokingly. Hurt. This thing does look interesting, but it can be killed. Gojo Satoru ignored Ryuichi's teasing. Rather, it is as if through the stone Buddha I saw the god of formation hidden in it. Chapter 128. Advertisement. Gojo Satoru's tone was still so frivolous. But it does have some indescribable self-confidence. This is the self-confidence from the world's strongest, unparalleled self-confidence in one's own strength. Even in the face of cursed spirit, which cannot be eliminated by major families in the ancient times, his tone is so calm. And Ryuichi's attitude that treats everyone as a treasure is like throwing away rubbish. Similar to the same. It all comes from an attitude towards one's own strength. A sort of invincible attitude. I am invincible on the top of the mountain. Even though it may still need to fight fiercely with him at this moment, as long as it is not too long, even the sky will be subverted for you to see. Well, it's really hard to deal with, but you are right, you can kill. Ryuichi agreed with Gojo Satoru's words and nodded slightly. Although the power of becoming a god is terrifying, if it is done with all his strength, Ryuichi may really be able to fight the so-called god. After all, with his 3 great stunts, under the condition of complete liberation, the power that bursts out will be unimaginable horror. However, you are really crazy enough. Knowing the temperament of 23 Dao's old antiques, you still have to provoke them. I heard that the old guy from the Jujutsu Association almost angered himself. You made such a fuss. The Jujutsu Association did not agree that the accumulated momentum was completely ruined. Gojo Satoru pursed his mouth and gave a smirk. Like Ryuichi, he doesn't have the slightest affection for those corrupt seniors. If it is not for character reasons, I am afraid that Gojo Satoru may make a move to slaughter the top of Jujutsu. When I heard about Ryuichi's behavior, when everyone else was blaming the treason, he was the only one who secretly applauded. However, Ryuichi took a surprised look at Gojo Satoru and said, I thought you would think I was killing innocent people indiscriminately. Under the suggestion of the Jujutsu Association, the news of Ryuichi's destruction of the Rukawa family has quickly spread throughout Fuso. The circle of Jujutsu division is not big at first, but now it's even more 1 past 10, 10 past 100. Zenin Ryuichi, with his own power, destroyed the Rushuan family, and the news that the chickens and dogs did not leave is like growing wings. I am afraid that even the jujutsu teachers in the countryside already know the name of Ryuichi. Although Gojo Satoru's character is a bit frivolous, but in his bones he is a good person who does not hesitate, and even has a sense of justice that is somewhat out of the ordinary. Unexpectedly, he didn't mention anything about it. Puff, do you really think that the intelligence system of my Gojo family eats rice? The Rushuan family buys countless children and women on the black market every year. No one in the family has a clean hand. What is there to say about such a dirty family? Advertisement. If it were me, it might be even more ruthless than you. Gojo Satoru shook the cheese bread in his hand. There was an unspeakable charm in his eyes. Hearing Gojo's words, Ryuichi chuckled and shook his head helplessly. This guy, in addition to his bad personality, is not leaking in everything he does. In that case, even if your strength is strong, your butt will be removed from the position of the patriarch. Just the moment after Gojo Satoru's words were said, Zenin's unrelenting voice rang at the door. Ryuichi looked at the door with some surprise. Zenin Shire actually walked through the door. Since moving to Fuzang until now, Shire, who has never walked through the door once, will actually walk through the door. It's too strange. Shire pushed open the door of the house of all things without any beer in his hand. The clothes on his body are not as sloppy as in the past, but a slim fit, which sets off his slender figure very tall. At first glance, the hair has been well taken care of. I have to say that the foundation of the Zen Yuan family is really good. Although Shire is not as perfect as Ryuichi's appearance. But after taking care of it, there was a bit of unspeakable heroism. Walking on the street will inevitably arouse the exclamation of a nymphomaniac girl. My son-in-law, you can't bear to be lonely, are you going to go on a blind date? Gojo Satoru, who seems to be kind to everyone, just doesn't deal with Shire for some reason. Every time I meet, I have to ridicule and taunt. Naturally, all cuts are black, not to mention Gojo Satoru, who has a dark belly. That's better, such a big person is locked up at home, hey. Naturally, Gojo Satoru would not let Gojo Satoru ridicule so comfortably and immediately launched a counterattack. Well, you two. Ryuichi listened to the fight between the two, and 3 black lines rose above his head. Interrupted the conversation between the two. Shire, you wear such a suit, are you going to pick up the child? Hearing this, Shire's tone became a bit abnormal, and he, who had always been lawless, appeared a bit embarrassed. After finishing the trip to Rukawa's house, Ryuichi discussed with Shire and could take Fushiguro Megumi here to live. But the condition is that she deducts all the few jobs she has. You actually have children. Advertisement. Gojo Satoru looked at Shire in admiration, but he didn't expect that this prodigal-style guy would actually become a father. Don't say it's Gojo Satoru, but Shire himself is a bit trance. His son is very talented, maybe you will get along very well. It suddenly occurred to Ryuichi that in the original work, Gojo Satoru was Fushiguro Megumi's head teacher, and he took care of Fushiguro Megumi when he was very young. But this time because of Ryuichi. The time of the two encounters will be much earlier than in the original work. In the original book, Shire died in the hands of Gojo Satoru, who had unlocked the reversal technique. Before he died, he entrusted his son to Gojo Satoru. And Gojo Satoru was also in that battle, showing some respect for that powerful man. Then I found Fushiguro Megumi. But it's because of Ryuichi. Gojo Satoru and Shire, although they are very uncomfortable, they will never show up because of the money to kill the Gojo Satoru mission target. The boss has a good vision, my son will definitely master Jujutsu. Don't look at the fact that Jujutsu seems to be very contemptuous of Jujutsu. That's because the more you lose something, the more you get tired of it. But this kind of thing is completely different when it comes to my own children. Oh, yes, then I'm still looking forward to it. Hearing Ryuichi said that Shire's children would get along with him, which made Gojo Satoru a little interested. A dodge appeared at the door of the refrigerator. Take out a can of Bing Kuola. Thinking in mind. If Shire's child is more intimate to himself than to him, I really don't know what this guy will be angry with. P.S. Brothers, you are still reading at this point. You must be a noble single. Give everyone a set of swordsmanship. Sword score. There is no woman in the heart, so it is natural to draw the sword. First page, forget your sweetheart. The second page, self-determining infatuated soul. On the third page, the sword cuts arrows. On the fourth page, raise your hand to extinguish the red dust. The fifth page, angrily cut the old lover. Page 6, improper lovers. The seventh page, close and lock the door. Chapter 129. Advertisement. Shire tidied his clothes, which seemed a bit unnatural. Then he was about to turn around and leave. But before leaving, he glanced at Gojo Satoru deeply, and said solemnly. The severity of the 100 Families Covenant is not what you can imagine. Unless one day, the Gojo family is completely under your control, otherwise. Your position is not unbreakable. Gojo Satoru drank an ice of coke, without even looking at Shire, manipulating the coke into the air. I know. However, she had already disappeared at the door at this moment. How about this retreat? Ryuichi didn't want to discuss the topic of Baijia, so he changed the topic. Gojo Satoru is also a smart person, and he naturally knows the truth about going downhill. The situation of the two is completely different. Discussing these things will not have an impact on them, but there is no need to cause trouble. Affect the opponent's judgment. Thanks to your wealth, I can now make one-handed seals and instant jujutsu, and the development of unlimited surgery has also reached a critical step. Guess what? What is it? Gojo Satoru knocked on the table in a rather wicked way. It seems certain that Ryuichi can never guess it. What else can there be? It's nothing more than automatic circulation without lower limit surgery. No way. In front of Ryuichi, who was almost on the go, he knew almost all the abilities of Gojo Satoru. Cut. It's boring, but after 10 years, the person on stage will definitely be me. Oh, yes, I don't like to compete with others, so it's enough to have me on stage. ZZZ. The eyes of the two collided. The human space all around seemed to be shaking slightly. Rumble. Click. The breath of terror surging behind them like a mountain river erupting. Both of them reduced the power of the curse to a minimum. In a limited space, the curse power has collided countless times within a few seconds. The black thunder exploded in the void. Gojo Satoru, the blue eyes of the sky with strong self-confidence, as if in front of this man, all things in the world can only bow their heads. Advertisement. And Zenin Ryuichi's pair of moon-white eyes with a bottomless gloom, it seems that all existence will sink and perish in that gloom. Click. The curse power of the two people are connected together ferociously. The surroundings were almost reflected in blue. It's just a collision of breath and curse power. There is such a big momentum. If you go all out, the consequences are simply unimaginable. Ha ha ha, you guy is still so funny. Ha ha, you are not bad, but be careful to be too far off by me. Then see who of us goes faster. With the laughter of the two, the horror surroundings continued to converge, and everything quickly returned to its original state. After the final test, it was not only himself who improved, but also Gojo Satoru, the monster who improved rapidly during this period. But this is also in Ryuichi's cognition. After all, the future Gojo Satoru is a well-deserved, invincible. Even at that time, all the forces hidden in the haze did not take action. But Gojo's strength is enough to suppress everything. No, for some reason, Ryuichi suddenly thought of the eldest brother in the mouth of the god. There was a faint anxiety in my heart. Would you like to see a movie? It's troublesome. Let's watch it at home. Fuso, Tokyo, marked with supernatural attractions, Suicide Gorge. At this moment, thousands of human beings lined up in long lines, under the leadership of the tour guide, smiling and swimming in this canyon where thousands of people died each year. Curious, challenging, and disbelieving, this large crowd formed a vast tourist group to go sightseeing in the canyon. And no one can see the place. The two pairs of Scarlet got the glasses and watched everything silently. How wonderful this era is, women and children are everywhere. The weak man is like the reptile underneath. Yara Valley. This place is simply heaven. A headless corpse stood in front of the wooden house. Through bursts of black air, he could see the countless human beings. On his stomach, a big mouth close to half of his waist left drooling greedily. If Ryuichi were here, he would recognize it at a glance. This corpse is exactly the corpse of Rushwanya whose head was cut off by Cher. It's a pretty good time, but don't you really feel sick with this densely packed maggot-like human being? Fate. Advertisement. A lie in black, stroking the crow on his shoulder, looking sadly at the human in the picture, with endless disgust. Hey, big mouth stuck out a disgusting and huge tongue, licking on the edge of the teeth. This is all bloody food. Lie you, how can you still be so boring? How can you pick and choose food? I just woke up and I happen to be very hungry, the headless monster called Yuan gave a grin. The bones of the whole body began to twist strangely. Diaresis, you haven't awakened yet, your body is still in the door, don't forget that you are a fragment. Lai teased the crow, looked at Yuan earnestly and said. Ha ha ha, lies, it doesn't matter who is the main body and who is the fragment, I just want to have some snacks, no problem. Please, but don't get it everywhere. Otherwise, Yada gets angry and I can't save you. Last time your predecessor, because of this, was imprisoned by Yada alive on the key, wailing. It's been hundreds of years. Lai put a finger up and gestured. Hey, don't worry. Pung. When the voice fell, Yuan's figure disappeared instantly. In the picture, a huge mouth appeared. Pouch. With one bite, dozens of human beings were swallowed by him in an instant. Through the screen, Lies can even see the faces of those people who are distorted because of fear. The blood kept falling in Yuan's mouth, and half of his unswallowed intestines hung over his mouth. But everything just started. The black curtain instantly shrouded all around Death Canyon. All electronic equipment has lost its effect. Monster. Don't come over. Don't come over. Ah, Mom. Save my mother. What the hell is this? Are you making a movie? No, that's real blood. I'm a doctor, it's not fake. Yuan looked at the humans who kept running around like ants. There was a smile that no one had ever seen before. Half of the belly is almost opened. Humans, be obediently eaten by this uncle. Look up. Become with me and give you eternal life. Come on, in my belly. Live forever with me. Isn't that the ultimate dream of your human beings? Ha 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 ha. His laughter covered everything. The crying and wailing all disappeared. His evil and wanton laugh became the only voice in the canyon. Chapter 130. Advertisement. Deep in the canyon, Yada did not know when to appear next to the lie. The head pipe in his hand wailed. Different from the decayed appearance in normal days, Yada was full of a tyrannical aura at this time. The short and rickety body gradually stood straight, like a powerful blade. Welcome back to the world, Yada. Lie looking at Yada, who had already undergone earth-shaking changes from before, with a bit of emotion in his tone. He seems to know. During this disappearing time, what did Yada go through? Did the bond run out of the door? Yada didn't pay attention to the lies, but looked at the bloody picture on the black fog. The headless monster has now become a horrible creature about 100 meters in size. It is swallowing unscrupulously, chewing the humans in the canyon. Blood, bones, and internal organs were thrown everywhere. Looking at all this, Yada frowned involuntarily, and there was a trace of extremely humane dissatisfaction. There was also a bit of anger between the eyebrows. Lai shrugged helplessly and said softly, "It's not a relationship. If that guy would have waited for you to come back honestly, after all, he suffered a big loss when he was in your hands. If it wasn't for the big brother to speak, now that guy's new life is possible. It's done. As this mindless thing right now. It's a fragment from the bondage body. However, it also shows one thing, the door that sealed the bondage is indeed broken. It won't be long before we have one more partner." Just between the lies, a huge shadow suddenly enveloped him and Yada. The smell of blood instantly filled the whole wooden house. Incarnation of a huge beast, he licked the bloodshot of his mouth with a grinning smile. "Yada, it's been a long time, ah. Before he finished speaking, he let out a heart-piercing scream. Click, a huge arm fell out of thin air. The black blood splattered everywhere, and the tyrannical curse power all over his body unexpectedly collapsed somewhat. "Ah, it hurts. What are you doing?" Yuan wailed and questioned Yada in front of him. In the time of 1/10 of a second, Yada directly tore off his arm. Advertisement. And even the arm in his soul was torn together. In other words, even with his cursed spirit body, this arm is completely irrecoverable. "You broke my rules. If it weren't for the sake of forming a relationship, you would have become a piece of rotten meat piled on the ground." Yada's voice was still as flat as before without the slightest tone. "It's like an unchanging day, letting people almost die." There seemed to be some power in the voice, and Yuan actually raised a bit of self-determination. "I'm just a piece of the god of affinity, why do I still exist? Yes, does it make sense to exist like this?" But soon, a tremor in his mind quickly withdrew him from the mood that almost caused him to destroy himself. The whole body could not help being soaked in cold sweat. "Okay, Yada, it seems that you really got your surgery back." Lee walked to the front of the wooden table and sat down. Took out a tea can. With a big hand, countless mini-humans were pinched in the palm of his hand and let out a faint wailing. He simply threw away those human beings, in the hot teacup. "Well, what do you plan to do next? Do you remember Curse Island?" Curse Island. Big Three sorcerer families participates in the Battle of Door every 10 years. In order to compete for the door and come up with a new door, that place is called Sorcerer Island. How come you mentioned this suddenly? Yada raised the teacup in his hand and took a few sips. It's like savoring something delicious in the world. According to the date, it's almost time for them to reopen the Curse Island. On Mantra Island, get rid of Gojo Satoru and Zenin Ryuichi together. In this case, no one can stop us anymore. The voice of the lie was a bit crazy. The teacup in his hand was trembling even more. Why do you value those two people so much? I admit that they have some means and strengths, but compared with those old guys hiding in the dark, they still have a gap. Even if you get rid of those two people, those old guys will be the last problem. It is true that after Ryuichi swallowed all his white curses, he was already dead in his eyes. But, he didn't quite understand why this guy had to be so obsessed with killing Gojo Satoru and Zenin Ryuichi together. Lee sighed softly. Advertisement. Put the teacup on the tabletop. The tone is also unprecedentedly strict. I saw countless possible futures. With the appearance of Zenin Ryuichi, they were all rejected. His existence is the greatest instability. The laws of this world cannot act on him. So he absolutely can't continue to live. And Gojo Satoru. Lying at Yada, he said word by word. You don't want to see what happened back then. After speaking, both of them fell into silence. On the other hand, Yuan was completely immersed in fear, and had already stood there dumbly, motionless. I got it. After a while, Yada turned and walked deeper into the canyon. It was an invisible darkness. Even lies are not qualified to step into it. The darkness is like eternal night. It seems that when human beings were born, they already existed in this world. A huge coffin was in the depths of darkness. Set off by countless bones. Surrounded by countless death breaths. sleeping quietly. The tyrannical curse power around is constantly sketching out various pictures. It records the entire history of human evolution from ancient times to the present. Ape man, sapiens, civilized, and wise. From the raw flesh and blood to the delicacies of mountains and seas, from brotherhood to antagonism. It seems that everything in this world has emerged one after another under this curse power. Big brother, the era you said is about to come. The door has cracked. A piece of the body of the fellow of the god of destiny actually dared to be presumptuous in front of your palace. If I hadn't known you had always favored him, I would have torn him to pieces. Don't worry, brother, I will guard everything you left behind and wait for your return. Waiting, all the kings of cursed spirit and all the gods of curse return.